Hey, amazing viewers! Thanks for clicking on Fanfic TV. Today's special feature is: what if the Ghost Rider's spirit bonded with Harry at age 6 and he became the spirit of magical vengeance? Your support through likes, shares, and subscriptions helps us reach more story lovers around the world. Thank you for being part of this community. Now, let's escape into this wonderful story. Chapter 1. The Pact of Flame. The cupboard under the stairs was dark, as always. 6-year-old Harry Potter lay curled on his thin mattress, one hand pressed against his ribs where Uncle Vernon had grabbed him too hard. Outside, he could hear his cousin Dudley stomping up and down the stairs, deliberately making dust fall onto Harry's blanket with each heavy step. "Stop jumping on the stairs, Duddykins," Aunt Petunia called from the kitchen. "You'll wear out the carpet." Not a word about Harry, of course. Never a word about Harry. His stomach growled, a hollow ache that had become all too familiar. 3 days since they'd locked him in here. 3 days since the incident. He hadn't meant to end up on the school roof. One moment Dudley's gang had been chasing him, and the next, he was sitting atop the chimney, the wind ruffling his unruly black hair. Uncle Vernon's face had turned that particular shade of purple that always meant trouble. Harry shifted on the mattress, wincing as his empty stomach protested. The small strip of light beneath the cupboard door dimmed as someone passed by. Then the bolt slid back with a metallic click. "Out!" Uncle Vernon barked, his massive form blocking what little light spilled into the opening. "You've got chores." Harry scrambled up, squinting against the sudden brightness. His glasses, taped at the bridge where Dudley had broken them, slid down his nose. "Yes, Uncle Vernon," he said quietly. "And no funny business," his uncle hissed, meaty finger jabbing toward Harry's chest. "One more abnormality. And you'll wish you'd never been born, boy." Harry nodded, keeping his eyes lowered. He'd learned that looking directly at Uncle Vernon sometimes made things worse, as if eye contact itself was a form of defiance. The list of chores was impossible for a 6-year-old. Weeding the garden under the blistering July sun, scrubbing the kitchen floor, washing windows, painting the garden fence. By midday, Harry's hands were raw from the caustic cleaning solutions, his knees scraped from the gravel in Aunt Petunia's flower bed, and his stomach cramping from hunger. Sweat trickled down his back as he strained to reach the higher parts of the windows, balanced precariously on a stool that wobbled beneath his weight. Not streaky this time. Aunt Petunia sniffed as she passed. "I want to see my reflection." Harry nodded, redoubling his efforts despite the trembling in his arms. From the living room came the sounds of Dudley's television program, punctuated by his cousin's braying laughter. The contrast wasn't lost on Harry, even at 6. One boy surrounded by comfort and privilege, the other treated worse than a servant. Something hot and unfamiliar burned in Harry's chest, different from hunger. It felt like the coal embers he'd once seen in the fireplace, glowing dangerous. "Boy!" Uncle Vernon's voice boomed from the kitchen. "Get in here!" Harry carefully placed the cleaning supplies on the floor and hurried to the kitchen. His uncle stood by the counter, face flushed with rage, holding a shattered teacup. "What is this?" he demanded, shaking the broken pieces. I didn't," Harry began. "Don't lie to me!" Vernon roared. "Petunia says she left it perfectly fine on the counter, and now it's broken. More of your freakishness." "No, I was just cleaning the windows," Harry protested, backing away. "I didn't touch anything in here." The truth was irrelevant. It always had been in this house. Harry saw it in his uncle's eyes, the decision already made, justice a foreign concept when it came to him. Vernon advanced, grabbing Harry by the collar and lifting him until his toes barely scraped the floor. "I've had enough of your lies and your abnormalities," he spat, flecks of saliva landing on Harry's glasses. "No food for a week. And this," he shook Harry hard enough to make his teeth rattle, "is for breaking Petunia's favorite cup." The first blow caught Harry across the face, snapping his head back. The second sent his glasses flying. The third never came. Because something awakened inside Harry Potter at that moment, something ancient and burning and vengeful. Deep within the planes of existence where natural forces balanced the scales of cosmic justice, an entity stirred. The spirit of vengeance, bound to the mortal realm by ancient pacts, felt the pull of innocent suffering. For centuries, it had ridden with chosen vessels, punishing the guilty and protecting the innocent. But never had it sensed such potential, magic so raw and powerful, paired with a soul so wounded yet untainted. In Harry's mind, a voice whispered, ancient as desert winds, harsh as flames. Little one, would you like the power to ensure no innocent suffers as you have? Harry, dazed from the blow, hanging from his uncle's grip, didn't understand the words so much as their meaning. Yes, his heart answered. Yes, I would. Then we shall be one, Harry Potter. Your soul and mine. Your magic and my fire. The kitchen light flickered. The temperature plummeted, then soared. Vernon Dursley froze, his fist still raised, as something impossible happened to the boy in his grasp. Harry's eyes, once emerald green, now blazed with golden fire. His skin began to glow from within, like metal in a forge. When he spoke, his voice carried echoes of something ancient and terrible. Put me down. Vernon dropped him as if burned, staggering backward until he hit the refrigerator. What are you doing, boy? Stop this freakishness at once. But Harry couldn't stop it. He wouldn't stop it. The entity twining through his soul and magic showed him truths, showed him what Vernon and Petunia had done, not just to him but to his parents' memory. Showed him the lies, the cruelty, the fundamental injustice of it all. You have hurt an innocent child, Harry said, but it wasn't only Harry speaking. You have starved him. Beaten him. Lied to him about his parents. Locked him away like an animal. His small hands began to smoke, not burning but emanating curls of black vapor that smelled of brimstone. The linoleum beneath his feet bubbled and warped. Petunia! Vernon bellowed, his face now ashen. Call someone. The boy's gone mad. Petunia appeared in the doorway and screamed, a high, piercing sound that cut through the supernatural haze filling the kitchen. Dudley, waddling behind her, took one look at his cousin and wet himself, the dark stains spreading down his pant leg. What are you? Petunia whispered, clutching the doorframe. Harry tilted his head, considering her. Two beings looked through his eyes now, a confused, frightened child and something much, much older. I am vengeance, he said simply. I am judgment. He raised one smoking hand, and the cupboard door under the stairs exploded off its hinges. From within, Harry's few possessions, a broken toy soldier, a threadbare blanket, a cracked plastic cup, flew into the kitchen, circling him like satellites. You will never lock me in there again, Harry stated. You will never strike me. You will never starve me. Vernon found his courage, or perhaps his foolishness. Now see here, we took you in. Fed you. Clothed you. And this is how you repay us? With this unnaturalness? Harry moved with inhuman speed, suddenly standing directly before his uncle. Though barely reaching Vernon's waist, the supernatural presence radiating from him made the massive man shrink back. You've stained your soul with cruelty, Harry said, placing one small hand on Vernon's chest. Look into my eyes. Vernon couldn't help himself. He looked down, meeting the burning gaze. In that moment, Vernon Dursley experienced every moment of pain, hunger, loneliness, and fear he had inflicted on Harry Potter. Every harsh word. Every missed meal. Every night locked in darkness. It lasted only seconds in real time, but for Vernon, it stretched like years. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, tears streaming down his face. That is but a taste, Harry said, the voice of the spirit echoing through his words. Reform your ways, or next time, you face the penance stare in full. Petunia had backed against the wall, pulling Dudley behind her. What have you done to him? She stammered. Harry turned to her, those burning eyes seeming to see through flesh to the soul beneath. He felt what I felt. Nothing more. The supernatural glow began to fade, the smoke dissipating. Harry's eyes, though still unnaturally bright, returned to green. The objects orbiting him clattered to the floor. He swayed, suddenly looking like nothing more than an exhausted 6-year-old boy. "I'm going to Dudley's second bedroom," he said quietly. "That's mine now." No one argued. Harry climbed the stairs slowly, each step an effort. Behind him, he heard Petunia trying to revive Vernon, who seemed unable to speak, only whimper. In Dudley's second bedroom, filled with broken toys and discarded gifts, Harry collapsed onto the unmade bed. His head throbbed. His body felt hollow and strange, as if something else had temporarily worn it. "Rest, little vessel," the voice whispered in his mind. "Our bond is new. Your body must adapt." "Who are you?" Harry whispered into the empty room. "What are you?" "I have many names across many realms. Spirit of Vengeance. The Rider. Zarathos. I am justice for those who cannot find it elsewhere. I am punishment for those who believe themselves beyond it." Harry curled onto his side, too overwhelmed to fully comprehend. "Are you magic?" A sound like distant laughter echoed in his mind. "Magic is but one kind of power in the universe, child. I am older than your kind's understanding of magic. But yes, in you, my essence mingles with your magical core. It will create interesting effects as you grow. Will you hurt people? Only those who deserve it. Only those who harm innocence. I am vengeance, Harry Potter, not cruelty. There is a difference, though you are too young to fully understand it yet." Harry's eyelids grew heavy. "Will you stay with me? Our bond is permanent. Until your death, which, with my protection, should be many decades hence, we are one." As Harry drifted toward sleep, the spirit settled into the corners of his consciousness, exploring the magical potential of its new vessel. Such power, untapped and raw. Such possibilities. And beyond the house on Privet Drive, in a castle hidden in the Scottish Highlands, magical instruments in the headmaster's office began to whir and whistle, detecting a fundamental change in the boy they monitored. Albus Dumbledore looked up from his desk, frowning as an ancient silver device began emitting plumes of crimson smoke instead of its usual blue. "Most peculiar," he murmured, rising to examine it. "What has happened to young Harry?" The days that followed were unlike anything Harry had previously experienced at number 4, Privet Drive. The Dursleys kept their distance, speaking to him only when absolutely necessary, their voices strained and eyes averted. Harry had been given Dudley's second bedroom permanently, along with 3 proper meals a day and new clothes, hastily purchased by a shaken Aunt Petunia after Harry calmly informed her that his rags were unacceptable. Vernon had recovered physically from the penance stare, but something in him remained broken. He flinched whenever Harry entered a room, and late at night, Harry could sometimes hear him crying out in his sleep, begging forgiveness for sins he never acknowledged while awake. As for Harry himself, he spent hours in conversation with the spirit, learning about their bond and the powers it granted him. "Can I transform? Like you showed me in those visions?" Harry asked one evening, sitting cross-legged on his bed. "With the flames and everything?" "Not yet," the spirit replied. "Your body is too young, too small to channel that much power. The partial manifestation you experienced was dangerous enough. Full transformation would consume you." Harry tried not to feel disappointed. "When, then?" "Perhaps at 11 or 12, when your magical core begins to mature. Perhaps later. We shall see. In the meantime, there are other abilities you can develop safely." These other abilities proved fascinating enough. Harry discovered he could sense lies. They tasted bitter on his tongue when heard. He could look at a person and see glimpses of their darkest deeds, like shadowy films playing behind them. Most remarkably, he found he could summon small flames to his fingertips, little dancing points of fire that burned nothing he didn't wish to burn. His first deliberate use of this ability came when Dudley, recovering some of his bravado after weeks of terrified avoidance, cornered Harry in the back garden. "Freak!" Dudley hissed, though he kept a cautious distance. "Dad says we should have drowned you when you were left on our doorstep." Harry tilted his head, studying his cousin. The spirit stirred in his mind, but didn't take control, This was a test, Harry realized. To see what he would do on his own. Your father has done enough to me that he should be grateful I haven't done worse to him, Harry said quietly. What about you, Dudley? Do you think I should forget how you helped them hurt me? Dudley's face flushed with anger and fear. You can't do anything to me. Mum says that whatever you did to Dad was a one-off. She says you're still just a skinny little nobody. Harry smiled, a small, cold expression that belonged on a much older face. He raised his hand, concentrating on the feeling of the spirit's essence flowing through him. His fingertips ignited, 5 tiny flames dancing in the summer breeze. Want to test that theory? He asked softly. Dudley's eyes widened to the size of dinner plates. He backed away, stumbling over a garden hose. You're not allowed. I'm allowed whatever I decide I'm allowed, Harry corrected, advancing slowly. But I'll make you a deal, Dudley. You leave me alone completely, no insults, no complaints to your parents, no trying to get me in trouble, and I'll do the same for you. And if I don't? Dudley challenged, though his voice quavered. Harry closed his fist, extinguishing the flames. When he opened it again, a small ball of fire hovered above his palm. Then one night, when you're sleeping, everything you love might catch fire. Your television. Your computer. Your toys. It was a bluff. The spirit had been clear that they punished the truly guilty, not petty bullies. But Dudley didn't know that. The larger boy nodded frantically. Fine. Deal. Just stay away from me. Harry extinguished the flame. Pleasure doing business with you. As Dudley waddled rapidly back to the house, Harry felt the spirit's approval warming his chest. You learn quickly, little vessel. Was that okay? Harry asked silently. Threatening him? Sometimes fear is a tool of justice. The truly innocent need never fear us. But those like your cousin, minor transgressors, can be reformed through fear, without requiring our full judgment. Harry nodded, considering this distinction. It made sense to him. Dudley was mean, but not evil. Not like the one who murdered your parents, the spirit finished his thought. Yes. For that one, when the time comes, it will be more than fear we bring. Harry looked up sharply. You know about that? About who killed my parents? I see the fragments of truth in your mind, child. Your aunt and uncle told you your parents died in a car crash, but you have memories, buried deep, of green light and screaming. Of a high, cold laugh. You were too young to understand, but I can sense the magical residue of a killing curse that still clings to your scar. Harry's hand flew to his forehead, to the lightning-shaped mark he'd had for as long as he could remember. Magic? A curse? Then my parents were murdered by a dark wizard. Yes. And someday, if he still exists in any form, we shall find him. The revelation should have shocked Harry more than it did. But somehow, it felt like confirmation of something he'd always known deep down. His parents hadn't died in something as mundane as a car crash. And the strange things that had always happened around him, ending up on the school roof, shrinking that horrible sweater, growing his hair back overnight after Aunt Petunia cut it, those weren't abnormalities or freakishness. They were magic. His magic. Will you teach me? He asked the spirit. How to use magic properly. I am not a wizard, child. My essence is different from your mortal magic. But I can help you develop control, and when the time comes for you to enter the wizarding world, you will be prepared. Wizarding world? Harry repeated, excitement building in his chest. There's a whole world of people like me? Indeed. Hidden alongside the non-magical realm. You'll learn of it in time. Harry couldn't contain his smile. For the first time in his life, he felt something approaching happiness, not just the absence of pain or fear, but actual joy. He wasn't alone. He wasn't a freak. And with the spirit, he'd never be helpless again. Summer faded into autumn, and autumn into winter. Harry continued his strange new life at Privet Drive, tolerated rather than loved, feared rather than abused. He attended school, where his newfound confidence and the mysterious change in his demeanor kept bullies at bay. Teachers noted his improved appearance and the sudden leap in his academic performance, now that he was no longer hiding his intelligence to avoid outshining Dudley. The spirit was a constant presence, sometimes dormant in the back of his mind, other times actively communicating. It taught him control, patience, and the difference between justice and mere revenge. Though the entity was ancient and often harsh in its judgments, it seemed to appreciate Harry's innate compassion, even encouraging it. A vessel without mercy becomes a monster, it explained one night as Harry lay in bed, watching shadows dance across the ceiling. Your humanity tempers my vengeance. It is a balance we must maintain. Have you had other people you've been inside before? Harry asked. Many across centuries. Riders who carried my flame. Some were worthy. Others, less so. What happened to the ones who weren't worthy? The spirit was silent for a long moment. They were consumed. The flame that brings justice can also bring destruction when wielded selfishly or cruelly. Harry swallowed hard. Could that happen to me? It is unlikely. Your soul is remarkably pure for one who has suffered as you have. But it is a possibility all my vessels must acknowledge. Power corrupts, little one. Even righteous power. It was a sobering thought, but not one that frightened Harry as it perhaps should have. At 7 years old, he possessed a maturity beyond his years, partly from his difficult early childhood, partly from bonding with an entity older than human civilization. Winter gave way to spring, and with the warming weather came an unexpected visitor to Privet Drive. Harry was in the back garden, practicing his control over small flames, when he felt a prickling sensation at the back of his neck. The spirit stirred, suddenly alert. We are being watched, it warned. By a magical presence. Powerful, but restrained. Harry extinguished the flame dancing above his palm and turned slowly. At first, he saw nothing unusual, just the neat rows of Aunt Petunia's flower beds, the pristine lawn, the wooden fence. Then a flicker of movement caught his eye. On the fence post sat a tabby cat with peculiar markings around its eyes, almost like square spectacles. It was watching him with an intensity no normal cat would possess. That is no cat, the spirit hissed. It is a witch or wizard in animal form. Harry stared at the cat, which stared unblinkingly back. Should I be worried? He murmured. Uncertain. The magic bears no malice, but deception is still deception. Making a quick decision, Harry approached the fence, stopping a few feet from the mysterious cat. I know you're not really a cat, he said clearly. Why are you spying on me? The cat's ears flicked forward in what appeared to be surprise. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, with fluid grace, the animal leaped from the fence post to the ground, but before it landed, it transformed. Where the cat had been now stood a tall, severe-looking woman in emerald robes and a pointed hat. Her hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and square spectacles perched on her nose, the same shape as the markings the cat had borne. Mr. Potter, she said, her Scottish accent crisp and clear. You are far more perceptive than I expected. Harry took an instinctive step back, feeling the spirit surge protectively. Who are you? My name is Professor Minerva McGonagall. I am the deputy headmistress of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. She paused, studying him with keen eyes. Though I find myself wondering exactly what you are, Mr. Potter. You've changed since I last saw you. You've seen me before? Harry asked, ignoring her question about what he was. Indeed. I was present the night you were left with your relatives. Her lips thinned with disapproval as she glanced at the Dursley house. I observed this family all day and expressed my concerns about them to the headmaster. It seems my reservations were justified. Harry felt the spirit probing at the woman's aura, seeking deceit or danger. She speaks truth, little vessel. But she is not telling all. There is concern, fear, perhaps, beneath her composure. Why are you here now? Harry demanded, his voice carrying a hint of the spirit's resonance. McGonagall's eyebrows rose at his tone. Certain magical instruments that monitor your well-being detected a significant change nearly a year ago. Headmaster Dumbledore has been concerned. I volunteered to investigate. Her gaze sharpened. Your eyes, Mr. Potter? Just for a moment they seemed to glow. Harry finished for her. They do that sometimes. That is not a normal magical phenomenon, she said carefully. Even for a wizard as potentially powerful as yourself. Harry considered his options. The spirit remained alert but not hostile. This woman wasn't an immediate threat, but neither could they trust her completely. I'm different, he said finally. Something happened to me. Something joined with me. It protects me. Helps me. McGonagall's face paled slightly. Joined with you? Mr. Potter, possession by magical entities is extremely dangerous. If something has attached itself to you, it's not like that. Harry interrupted. It's not controlling me. We're partners. And it saved me from. He broke off, not wanting to detail the Dursleys' abuse. The professor's expression softened slightly. From your relative's treatment? She sighed. I feared as much. But Harry, even benevolent possession can be harmful in the long term. This entity. She will not understand, the spirit cautioned. Few mortals comprehend my nature. But we must establish boundaries. She serves someone who will want to separate us. Harry straightened, feeling the spirit's essence flowing more strongly through him. His eyes flashed golden, and McGonagall took an involuntary step backward. The spirit stays with me, he said firmly. It's part of me now. Anyone who tries to take it away will regret it. The temperature around them dropped several degrees. The professor's breath misted in the suddenly chill air. Mr. Potter, McGonagall said, her voice remarkably steady despite the supernatural display. I am not your enemy. Nor am I here to harm you or your companion. But the headmaster must be informed of this development. And then what happens? Harry challenged. That would depend on the nature of this spirit. If it truly means you no harm. She cannot guarantee our safety, the spirit whispered. But neither does she intend us immediate harm. We should learn more about this Hogwarts and the wizarding world before deciding a course of action. Harry nodded slightly, acknowledging the spirit's advice. I'll make you a deal, Professor, he said, the otherworldly resonance fading from his voice. You tell me about Hogwarts, about magic and the wizarding world, and I'll tell you a little about the spirit. But I won't let anyone try to separate us. That's non-negotiable. McGonagall studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then, with a slight nod, she conjured 2 garden chairs with a wave of her wand. Very well, Mr. Potter. Let us talk like civilized people. She sat primly in one chair, indicating he should take the other. Though I warn you, the headmaster may not be as willing to negotiate. Harry smiled, a small, knowing expression that belonged on a much older face. Then the headmaster will learn what it means to face the spirit of vengeance. For the next hour they talked. McGonagall explained Hogwarts, the 4 houses, the basic structure of magical education. She told him about his parents, truly this time, not the lies the Dursleys had fed him, about James Potter's talent for transfiguration and Lily Evans' brilliance with charms and potions. She spoke of the Wizarding War, of Voldemort, though she called him you-know-who, and of Harry's own inexplicable survival of the killing curse, which had left him famous in their world as the boy who lived. In return, Harry explained a little about the spirit, its purpose as an entity of justice and vengeance, how it had bonded with him to protect him from abuse, how it taught him control and restraint rather than indiscriminate retribution. He demonstrated his ability to summon small flames, to sense lies and see the shadows of past misdeeds, careful not to reveal the full extent of what he might one day be capable of. The spirit guided his words, helping him navigate this delicate first contact with the wizarding world. As their conversation drew to a close, McGonagall looked troubled but not hostile. You present me with a dilemma, Mr. Potter. What you describe is unlike any magical phenomenon I'm familiar with. It's neither ghost nor possession in the traditional sense. It's older than your kind of magic, Harry said, echoing the spirit's earlier words. Different. So it would seem. She rose from her conjured chair, which vanished as she did. I must report to the headmaster. He may wish to speak with you himself. That's fine, Harry said, rising as well. But remember our terms. The spirit stays with me. McGonagall nodded stiffly. I will convey your position on the matter. Expect further contact, Mr. Potter. And until then. Her eyes flicked meaningfully toward the house. Are you safe here? Your relatives. They know better than to mistreat me now, Harry said, a hint of the spirit's coldness in his voice. They've seen what happens when they do. The professor's lips thinned, but she nodded. Very well. Good day, Mr. Potter. With a sharp crack that made Harry jump, she vanished, disapparating, the spirit informed him, a form of magical transportation. As Harry walked back to the house, he felt both exhilarated and apprehensive. His first contact with the wizarding world had gone reasonably well, but the spirit's warnings echoed in his mind. This Dumbledore, this headmaster, would likely see their bond as something to be broken. We must prepare, the spirit murmured. The magical world will present both opportunities and threats. And somewhere within it lurks the one who murdered your parents. The one whose soul cries out for our judgment. Harry nodded, a cold determination settling in his young heart. Whether the wizarding world accepted him and the spirit or not, they would face it together. And one day, they would find Voldemort, and show him what true vengeance looked like. Albus Dumbledore listened to Minerva McGonagall's report with growing concern, his aged fingers steepled beneath his long silver beard. The deputy headmistress had just finished describing her encounter with young Harry Potter, and the troubling entity that had apparently bonded with him. A spirit of vengeance, he called it, Minerva concluded. Unlike anything I've encountered in all my years of magical study. And the boy's eyes, Albus, they burned with golden fire when the entity's influence was strongest. Most disturbing, Dumbledore murmured. And you say this occurred approximately 10 months ago? That would align with the changes we detected in the monitoring instruments. Yes. From what I gathered, the Dursleys' mistreatment triggered the event. Her voice grew sharp with anger. Just as I warned you they might, Albus. Those were the worst sort of muggles. Dumbledore sighed heavily. We've had this discussion before, Minerva. The blood protection was essential. Without it, he might not have been driven to bond with some unknown supernatural entity. She snapped. What good is protection from outside threats when the danger comes from within his supposed sanctuary? The headmaster had no immediate response to that. He rose from behind his desk and crossed to the window, gazing out at the Hogwarts grounds bathed in spring sunshine. What is your assessment of his mental state? He asked finally. Is Harry still himself? Or has this entity subsumed his personality? Minerva considered the question. He is remarkably mature for a 7-year-old, certainly. There's a weight to his gaze, a deliberateness to his words that's unsettling in one so young. But I detected no malevolence, Albus. Indeed, he spoke of justice rather than vengeance, despite the entity's name. He seems balanced. For now, Dumbledore said gravely. But such bonds often corrupt over time. The entity may influence him subtly, turning justice to cruelty, righteousness to zealotry. He turned back to face her. And with Harry's magical potential and destined role, we cannot risk it. He was quite clear that any attempt to separate them would be met with resistance. Minerva warned. And having witnessed even a fraction of the power at his disposal, I'm inclined to take that threat seriously. Dumbledore nodded slowly. As am I. Direct intervention would be unwise at this juncture. We must learn more about this spirit, research its nature, its weaknesses, its true intentions. Until his Hogwarts letter arrives, we shall observe from a distance. And then, my dear Minerva, we shall proceed with extreme caution. The future of our world may well depend on whether Harry Potter controls this spirit of vengeance, or it controls him. Days became weeks, and weeks became months. No other representatives from the wizarding world came to Privet Drive, though Harry occasionally sensed magical surveillance, different from McGonagall's presence, more distant and diffuse. They are watching through means other than direct observation, the spirit explained. Magical instruments, perhaps, or subtler scrying spells. Harry found he didn't mind. Let them watch. Let them see that he and the spirit maintained their balance, harming none who didn't deserve it. His 8th birthday passed without celebration, though the Dursleys now provided him with adequate food, clothing, and shelter, motivated by fear rather than affection, but the result was the same. Harry spent his time reading voraciously, practicing control over his abilities, and learning all the spirit could teach him about justice, vengeance, and the balance between them. By his 9th birthday, Harry had developed a reputation in the neighborhood and at school as a quiet, intense boy with unerringly watchful eyes. Other children kept their distance, sensing something different about him. Teachers found him brilliant but unsettling, too mature, too controlled for a child his age. It was shortly after he turned 9 that Harry faced his first real test as the spirit's vessel. He was walking home from the local library, arms full of books on mythology and supernatural lore, research suggested by the spirit to help him understand their bond better, when he heard a scream from an alleyway. A child's scream, high and terrified. "Go," the spirit urged, suddenly alert. "An innocent suffers." Harry dropped his books and ran toward the sound. The alley was narrow and dark, sandwiched between a boarded-up shop and a warehouse. At its far end, he could make out several figures, 3 large, 1 small. As he drew closer, the scene became clear. 3 teenage boys had cornered a girl about Harry's age. One held her school bag overhead, out of reach. Another had grabbed her arm, twisting it painfully behind her back. The third was laughing, pointing at her tear-streaked face. "Please," she sobbed. "Just give it back. I need my inhaler. What's that, Wheezy?" the one holding her bag taunted. "Can't breathe right? Maybe you should learn to run faster." Harry felt the spirit surge within him, its essence flowing like molten metal through his veins. This was exactly the kind of injustice they existed to punish, the strong preying on the weak, causing suffering for amusement. "Let her go," Harry said, his voice carrying the spirit's resonance, echoing unnaturally in the confined space. The teenagers turned, startled by his sudden appearance. For a moment, they simply stared at the small, skinny boy with the oversized clothes and taped glasses. Then they laughed. "Look at this," the one holding the girl sneered. Another little runt. "What are you going to do, Four Eyes? Call your mummy?" I said. Harry repeated, his eyes beginning to glow with golden fire. "Let her go." The temperature in the alley plummeted. Frost crystallized on the damp pavement. The bullies' laughter died in their throats as they saw the impossible transformation occurring before them. Harry didn't fully change. His body was still too young to channel the spirit's full power, but his eyes blazed like miniature suns, and shadows seemed to writhe around him, taking the vague shape of a flaming skull for brief, terrifying moments. "What the foo?" the leader began, backing away. "You hurt her," Harry said, advancing steadily. "You frightened her. You took something she needs to breathe. Look into my eyes and feel what she felt." The one holding the girl's arm released it as if burned, stumbling backward. "What are you?" he gasped. Harry didn't answer. He simply extended his hand, and the girl's school bag flew from the leader's grasp into his own, a display of telekinesis the spirit hadn't taught him, but that came instinctively in the moment. "Run," Harry told the bullies, his voice still layered with supernatural resonance. "And know that if you ever harm another innocent, I will find you. I will know. And next time, I won't be so merciful." They ran, nearly tripping over each other in their haste to escape. The supernatural aura around Harry faded as he approached the girl, who was staring at him with wide, frightened eyes. He held out her bag, making sure his expression was gentle, human. "It's okay," he said softly. "I won't hurt you. Here's your inhaler." She took the bag with trembling hands, quickly digging through it until she found the inhaler. After taking a deep breath of the medication, her breathing steadied. What was that?" she asked, her voice shaky but curious rather than terrified. What you did to them. Harry hesitated. The spirit advised caution, revealing their nature too widely could bring unwanted attention. But this girl had seen too much to be fobbed off with a lie. I protect people who can't protect themselves, he said simply. Those who hurt innocents face judgment. She studied him with surprising steadiness. Like an avenging angel or something? Harry smiled slightly. Something like that. My name's Harry. Sarah, she replied, offering a tentative smile in return. Thanks for helping me. Those guys, they've been after me for weeks. Ever since they found out about my asthma. They won't bother you again, Harry promised. But if they do, or if anyone else does. He hesitated, then made a decision. I walk this way from the library every Thursday. If you need help, find me. Sarah nodded, something like wonder replacing the fear in her eyes. Okay. I will. As they parted ways at the end of the alley, Sarah heading home, Harry returning to collect his scattered books, the spirit stirred with what felt like approval. You handled that well, little vessel. Restrained yet effective. I didn't actually hurt them, Harry noted, gathering his books. Just scared them. Fear is often punishment enough for minor transgressions. And you've given the girls something more valuable than vengeance. What's that? Hope. The knowledge that someone watches over the innocent. That justice exists in this world. Harry considered this as he walked the remaining distance to Privet Drive. It felt good, using their power to protect someone. Different from threatening the Dursleys, which had been personal, complicated by his own anger and pain. This had been cleaner, simpler, pure protection of an innocent against harm. As he approached number 4, Harry noticed an unfamiliar figure standing near the garden gate, a tall, thin man in what appeared to be a purple suit, with a long silver beard and half-moon spectacles. Even at a distance, Harry could sense the magical power radiating from him. The spirit tensed. Careful, little one. This is Albus Dumbledore, the headmaster McGonagall spoke of. His power is great, and his intentions toward us, uncertain. Harry slowed his pace, clutching his books tighter. Should I run? No. He would find us regardless. Better to face him directly, establish our boundaries immediately. Taking a deep breath, Harry continued forward until he stood before the old wizard. Up close, Dumbledore appeared both grandfatherly and formidable. Twinkling blue eyes that hinted at immense intellect, a kind smile that nevertheless seemed calculated. Harry Potter, Dumbledore said warmly. At last we meet. Though I must say, you've changed considerably since I last saw you as an infant. Headmaster Dumbledore, Harry replied coolly. Professor McGonagall mentioned you might come. Did she indeed? Dumbledore's eyes twinkled. Well, I've always found Minerva to be remarkably perceptive. May I have a moment of your time? I believe we have much to discuss. Harry felt the spirit's wariness, but also its curiosity. This man was a link to the wizarding world, to Harry's parents, to the dark wizard who had murdered them. Knowledge they needed. All right, he agreed cautiously. But not inside. The Dursleys. They get nervous around magical people. Understandable, given recent events. Dumbledore said, his gaze sharpening slightly. Perhaps a walk, then? They set off down Privet Drive, an odd pair, the ancient wizard in his eccentric attire and the small boy with too large clothes and eyes too old for his face. For several minutes, they walked in silence, each measuring the other. Finally, Dumbledore spoke. Minerva tells me you've acquired a companion. A spirit that has bonded with you. That's one way of putting it. Harry acknowledged. It calls itself the Spirit of Vengeance. A concerning title. Dumbledore noted. Vengeance is rarely a constructive force, Harry. It's more about justice. Harry corrected. Protecting those who can't protect themselves. Like I just did for a girl being bullied. Dumbledore's eyebrows rose. Ah, yes. The incident in the alley. That display of power was remarkable for one your age. Harry stiffened. You were watching me? I have means of monitoring unusual magical occurrences, the headmaster said mildly. Particularly those involving you, given your importance. My importance because of Voldemort, Harry said, deliberately using the name. Because I survived when my parents didn't. Dumbledore didn't flinch at the name, but his expression grew more serious. Yes. The night Voldemort tried to kill you changed the course of wizarding history. But I fear your new companion may complicate matters further. The spirit stays with me, Harry said firmly, echoing what he told McGonagall. We're bonded. Permanently. So you believe, Dumbledore said carefully. But such bonds, even those that appear permanent, can often be safely dissolved with the proper magical procedures. At Hogwarts, we have resources, no. Harry's eyes flashed golden, and the temperature around them dropped sharply. The spirit protects me. Guides me. I won't let you or anyone else take it away. Dumbledore stopped walking, turning to face Harry directly. For the first time, the twinkle in his blue eyes was replaced by something harder, more assessing. Harry, I understand your attachment. This entity has given you power when you felt powerless, protection when you felt vulnerable. But consider this, what does it want in return? What is its true purpose in bonding with a child wizard of your particular magical heritage and destiny? Harry felt the spirit stir, considering how to respond. It settled on honesty, partial honesty at least. It wants what I want, Harry said. Justice for those who deserve it. Vengeance against those who harm innocents. Including, someday, Voldemort. Ah. Dumbledore's expression grew troubled. Revenge against Voldemort. And there we find the crux of the matter. He murdered my parents, Harry said coldly. He's tried to kill me. Why shouldn't I want vengeance? Because vengeance consumes the avenger, Harry. It transforms justice into cruelty, righteousness into zealotry. I've seen it happen to wizards far older and more experienced than yourself. Dumbledore sighed. And with your power, with this spirit enhancing it, the consequences could be catastrophic. He fears us, the spirit observed. As well he might. But there is more here. He has plans for you, plans our bond disrupts. What aren't you telling me? Harry demanded suddenly. Why do you really care what happens to me? Why was I left with the Dursleys, where I was abused for years? Why did no one from the wizarding world check on me until the spirit bonded with me? Dumbledore seemed taken aback by the directness of the questions. For a moment, his carefully maintained composure slipped, revealing genuine regret. Those are fair questions, Harry. The answers are complex. Some I cannot share until you're older, for reasons that will eventually become clear. As for the Dursleys, he sighed. I believed blood protection, magical safeguards created by your mother's sacrifice, outweighed other considerations. It seems I was wrong about the level of care you would receive. For that, I am truly sorry. The spirit detected no deception in the apology itself, but sensed hidden layers beneath the rest of Dumbledore's words. He speaks partial truths, little vessel. His regret is genuine, but he withholds much. Harry wasn't surprised. Adults always had agendas, in his experience. I accept your apology, he said formally. But it doesn't change my position. The spirit stays with me. If that's a problem for you or for Hogwarts, then I won't attend your school when the time comes. Dumbledore's eyes widened slightly. That would be most unfortunate, Harry. Not only would you miss the magical education you deserve, but you would remain isolated from your heritage, your birthright in the wizarding world. Then accept us as we are, Harry countered. Both of us. Or neither. They had reached the end of Privet Drive, where the neat suburban street met a small park. Dumbledore gestured to a bench, and they sat, a careful distance between them. I propose a compromise, the headmaster said after a thoughtful silence. I will not attempt to separate you from this spirit, not now, at least. In return, you will allow me to monitor your condition, to ensure the bond remains beneficial to your well-being. A reasonable opening position, the spirit assessed. Though his definition of beneficial, may differ from ours. Define monitor, Harry said cautiously. Occasional visits, like today's. Perhaps magical examinations at Hogwarts, once you attend. Nothing invasive or harmful. Harry considered, feeling the spirit's cautious approval. All right. But if you try to trick us, try to separate us without our consent. You have my word, Dumbledore said solemnly. No attempts at separation without clear evidence that the spirit threatens your well-being. Except, the spirit advised. We need time to grow stronger, to learn more about this world and our place in it. Fighting this wizard now would be unwise. Deal, Harry said, extending his small hand. Dumbledore shook it, his aged fingers surprisingly strong. As they touched, Harry felt a flicker of something, the headmaster's magic briefly brushing against the spirit's essence, like two predators circling, assessing each other. Fascinating, Dumbledore murmured. Truly unlike anything I've encountered in all my years of magical study. The spirit is older than your kind of magic, Harry repeated, the phrase becoming something of a mantra. Different. So it would seem. Dumbledore rose from the bench. I shall take my leave now, Harry. But we will meet again. And when your Hogwarts letter arrives on your 11th birthday, I hope you'll consider attending, despite our differences of opinion. If our agreement holds, I'll be there, Harry said. With a nod and a surprisingly warm smile, Dumbledore turned on the spot and vanished with a sharp crack, just as McGonagall had done. Harry remained on the bench, processing the encounter. The spirit seemed satisfied, though still wary. He will keep watching us, it noted. Waiting for any sign that our bond is harmful to you or others. We must be careful, controlled in our actions. But we won't hide what we are, Harry said firmly. Or what we can do. No. Concealment breeds suspicion. We will show them a vessel and spirit in harmony, using power justly. That, more than any words, will convince them to accept our bond. Harry nodded, watching as the sun began to set over Little Whinging. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with potential conflicts and challenges. But for the first time in his life, he didn't face it alone. Together, they would enter the wizarding world. Together, they would learn, grow, and prepare. And one day, when they were ready, they would face the darkness that had stolen Harry's parents, and show it the true meaning of vengeance. Chapter 2 Trial by Fire. Nearly 2 years had passed since Dumbledore's visit. Harry Potter stood at the window of his bedroom, no longer Dudley's second bedroom but truly his own space now, watching an unusual summer storm brew over Little Whinging. Lightning forked across the sky, briefly illuminating the quiet street below. Strange weather for July, he murmured. Not natural, the spirit replied. Magic saturates the air. Something approaches. Harry nodded, unsurprised. Today was his 11th birthday, though the Dursleys had made no acknowledgement of it. More importantly, it was the day his Hogwarts letter should arrive, if Dumbledore had kept his word about allowing Harry and the spirit to attend together. As if summoned by his thoughts, a massive shadow appeared in the storm clouds. Not lightning this time, but something solid, moving with purpose through the turbulence. Interesting, the spirit commented. They've sent someone rather than mere parchment. The shadow descended, growing larger as it approached. Harry squinted through rain-spattered glasses and made out an impossible sight, a flying motorcycle with an enormous rider, heading directly for Privet Drive. Should we be concerned? Harry asked quietly. I sense no malice, the spirit answered after a moment. Powerful magic, yes, but not directed against us. Curious. The motorcycle landed with surprising grace on the street outside number 4, its engine cutting off immediately. The rider, a giant of a man, at least twice the height of a normal person and several times as wide, dismounted and approached the house, rain beating on his wild mane of hair and beard. Harry didn't wait for the visitor to knock. He headed downstairs, passing a terrified-looking Vernon and Petunia who had been drawn to their living-room window by the noise. Get back here, boy! Vernon hissed, his face pale. What have you done? Who is that monster? Harry paused, glancing back at his uncle. Though the Dursleys had maintained a wary truce with him these past few years, their fear had never diminished, only gone underground, festering like something rotten beneath floorboards. "He's from Hogwarts," Harry said simply. "The wizarding school. Today's my 11th birthday." Vernon made a strangled sound, but Harry had already continued to the door. He opened it just as the giant raised a dustbin lid-sized fist to knock. "Harry Potter!" the enormous man exclaimed, beaming through his tangled beard. "Last time I saw you, you was only a baby. Ya look a lot like your dad, but you've got your mom's eyes." Harry studied the visitor carefully, feeling the spirit's assessment running parallel to his own. The giant radiated warmth and genuine goodwill, unusual qualities in Harry's experience. "You knew my parents?" Harry asked. "Course I did. Oh, where are me manners? Rubius Hagrid, keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts." He extended a hand the size of a trash can lid. "Call me Hagrid, everyone does." Harry shook the massive hand, finding his entire arm engulfed up to the elbow. "Nice to meet you, Hagrid. Would you like to come in? Though you might have to duck." Hagrid chuckled. "Might have to do more than duck, but I appreciate the invitation." He glanced at the Dursleys cowering in the doorway to the living room. "Ah, I remember you lot. Evening, Dursleys." Vernon made another strangled sound. Petunia merely nodded stiffly, her fingers white-knuckled on the doorframe. "Perhaps the backyard would be better," Harry suggested, sensing the confrontation brewing. The last thing he needed was Vernon saying something stupid and triggering the spirit's protective instincts. "Lead the way," Hagrid agreed cheerfully. In the backyard, sheltered from the worst of the rain by the garden shed's overhang, Hagrid pulled a slightly squashed box from one of his many coat pockets. "Brought ya something. Might have sat on it at some point, but it'll taste all right." He handed the box to Harry, who opened it to find a sticky chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Harry" written in green icing. For a moment, Harry didn't know how to respond. It was the first birthday cake anyone had ever given him. "Accept the kindness, little vessel," the spirit murmured. "This one soul shines bright, rare among mortals." "Thank you," Harry said, genuinely moved. "That's really thoughtful of you." "As nothing," Hagrid said, though he looked pleased. "Got summit else for ya too." He reached into another pocket and pulled out an envelope made of yellowish parchment, addressed in emerald green ink, "Mr. H. Potter, the bedroom upstairs, 4 Privet Drive, Little Whinging, Surrey." Harry took it, feeling a sense of destiny unfurling. This was it, his official invitation to the wizarding world. "Go on then," Hagrid encouraged, watching eagerly. Harry broke the purple wax seal bearing a coat of arms, a lion, eagle, badger, and snake surrounding the letter H, and pulled out the letter inside. "Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confide of Wizards. Dear Mr. Potter, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Please find enclosed a list of all necessary books and equipment. Term begins on September 1st. We await your owl by no later than July 31st. Yours sincerely, Minerva McGonagall, Deputy Headmistress. Seems I'm expected to reply immediately," Harry noted, looking up at Hagrid. "Got that covered," Hagrid said, producing a somewhat ruffled-looking owl from yet another pocket. "Just need yet to confirm your common dot." Harry hesitated, remembering his agreement with Dumbledore. "Hagrid, did Professor Dumbledore mention anything specific about me? About my special circumstances?" Hagrid's beetle-black eyes crinkled with confusion. "Special circumstances? Well, he did say ye might have questions. That ye've had some unusual experiences these past few years." He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Something about an entity? Didn't really understand myself, but Dumbledore said it was all sorted out." "Interesting phrasing," the spirit observed. "Sorted out? Perhaps he's keeping our existence less public than we thought." Harry nodded slightly, acknowledging the spirit's assessment. Professor Dumbledore and I have an understanding, he told Hagrid carefully. As long as that understanding holds, I'll be attending Hogwarts. Brilliant! Hagrid exclaimed, clearly relieved. Here, just sign this then. He pulled out a crumpled piece of parchment and a quill. Harry signed his acceptance and watched as Hagrid attached it to the owl's leg. With a soft hoot, the bird took off into the stormy sky. Right then, Hagrid said, rubbing his massive hands together. We've got lots to do tomorrow. Gotta get your supplies from Diagon Alley. Books, wand, robes, all that. I'll come fetch you bright and early, if that's all right? That would be fine. Harry agreed. The Dursleys won't mind. They wouldn't dare, he added silently. After Hagrid departed, roaring off into the night on his flying motorcycle, Harry returned to his room, reading through the supply list with growing excitement. Cauldrons. Spell books. Wands. A world he'd only glimpsed through the spirit's ancient knowledge, and McGonagall's brief explanation was about to open fully before him. It begins, the spirit whispered. Your true heritage awaits, little vessel. Our heritage, Harry corrected. We face it together. As he drifted to sleep that night, his dreams were filled with golden fire and a sense of purpose burning brighter than any birthday candle. Diagon Alley exceeded every expectation. Harry stood at its entrance, a shabby pub called the Leaky Cauldron on one side, a twisting, cobblestone street filled with impossible shops on the other, and felt the spirit stirring with interest at the magic saturating the air. Amazing, isn't it? Hagrid said proudly, watching Harry's reaction. Everything a young wizard needs, right here in Diagon Alley. Harry nodded, momentarily speechless. The street before him bustled with witches and wizards in robes of every color, owls swooping between buildings, storefronts displaying items that defied Muggle physics, self-stirring cauldrons, broomsticks that hovered without support, books that snapped at browsing fingers. Where do we start? He asked, finding his voice. Gringotts, Hagrid replied, pointing toward an imposing white marble building towering over the smaller shops. Wizarding Bank. Run by goblins. Ya didn't think your parents left ya with nothin', did ya? Harry hadn't given much thought to wizarding finances, but as they approached the gleaming bank, the spirit grew alert. Ancient magic here, it observed. And beings not quite mortal. Interesting. The goblins proved to be exactly as Hagrid described, clever-faced, suspicious creatures who valued gold and contracts above all. As Harry approached the teller, the goblin looked up sharply, its eyes narrowing. Key, please, it demanded, but its gaze remained fixed on Harry's face, or more specifically on his eyes. Harry handed over the small golden key Hagrid had produced. The goblin examined it, then looked back at Harry with something like wariness. You carry fire, wizard child, it said in a low voice. Old fire. Older than our vaults. Beside him, Hagrid looked confused, but Harry met the goblin's gaze steadily. Yes, he acknowledged. Is that a problem for Gringotts? The goblin's lipless mouth curved in what might have been a smile. Not as long as you direct it elsewhere. We have an appreciation for justice in our own way. It rang a small bell, summoning another goblin. Griphook will take you to your vault. The cart ride through Gringotts' underground tunnels was exhilarating. Harry felt the spirit stirring with enjoyment at the wild speed, the sharp drops, the hissing steam from mysterious passages they rocketed past. When they finally reached his vault, Harry was stunned by the mounds of gold, silver, and bronze coins inside, a fortune by any standard. Your birthright, the spirit commented. One of them, at least. After filling a pouch with coins, they made one more stop, a high-security vault where Hagrid retrieved a small, grubby package with surprising secrecy. Hogwarts business, he explained, tucking it deep inside his coat. Very secret. Best not mention it, Harry. Curious, the spirit murmured. Something powerful but contained. A stone, perhaps? Old magic, different from the surrounding vaults. Back in the sunlight of Diagon Alley, they began their shopping in earnest. Robes at Madame Malkin's, where a pale, pointed-faced boy asked too many questions and made dismissive comments about Hagrid until he caught sight of the sudden golden flare in Harry's eyes. Books at Flourish and Blots, where Harry added several titles on magical history and theory to his required textbooks, at the spirit's suggestion. Cauldron, scales, telescope, and potion ingredients, each shop more fascinating than the last. "Just your wand left," Hagrid said finally. "And I still haven't got ya a birthday present." "You don't have to," Harry began, but Hagrid waved him off. "I know I don't have to. Tell ya what, I'll get your animal." "Not a toad, toads went out of fashion years ago, not a cat, make me sneeze. I'll get your an owl. Dead useful, carry your mail and everything. 20 minutes later, they left Elop's Owl Emporium with a beautiful snowy owl asleep in a cage, Harry stammering his thanks. He'd named her Hedwig, a name he'd found in one of his new history books. "Don't mention it," Hagrid said gruffly. "Right then, Ollivanders. Ain't no place better for wands." The wand shop was narrow and shabby, a single wand lying on a faded purple cushion in the window. As they entered, a bell rang somewhere in the depths of the shop. Harry felt the spirit's immediate interest. The very air seemed charged with potential magic. "Good afternoon," said a soft voice. An old man appeared from between the towering shelves of wand boxes, his pale eyes shining like moons through the gloom. "Hello," said Harry awkwardly. "Ah, yes," said the man, presumably Ollivander himself. Yes. I thought I'd be seeing you soon." "Harry Potter." It wasn't a question. "You have your mother's eyes. It seems only yesterday she was in here herself, buying her first wand. 10¼ inches long, swishy, made of willow. Nice wand for charm work." Ollivander moved closer, and Harry noticed he didn't blink. The spirit stirred, assessing. "This one sees more than most," it cautioned. "Be prepared. Your father, on the other hand, favored a mahogany wand. 11 inches. Pliable. A little more power and excellent for transfiguration." Ollivander had come so close they were nearly nose to nose. Harry could see himself reflected in those misty eyes. "And that's where—" Ollivander touched a lightning scar on Harry's forehead with a long, white finger. Then, unexpectedly, he gasped and stepped back. "Curious indeed," he whispered. "Most curious. You carry something ancient within you, Mr. Potter. Something that burns." Harry tensed, but before he could respond, Ollivander continued. "I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. Every single wand. It so happens that the phoenix whose tail feather resides in your adversary's wand gave another feather, just one other. It is very curious indeed that you should be destined for that wand's brother when you already house such interesting power." "My adversary?" Harry asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. "We do not speak his name," Ollivander whispered. "The wand chooses the wizard, Mr. Potter. I think we must expect great things from you. After all, he who must not be named did great things, terrible, yes, but great." Harry felt the spirit's fierce interest. "This wand maker knows of Voldemort's wand. We may need that information someday. Let us find your match," Ollivander continued, pulling out a long tape measure. "Which is your wand arm?" "I'm right-handed," Harry said. "Hold out your arm. That's it." Ollivander measured Harry from shoulder to finger, then wrist to elbow, shoulder to floor, knee to armpit, and around his head. As he measured, he explained how every Ollivander wand had a core of powerful magical substance: unicorn hairs, phoenix tail feathers, and dragon heartstrings. The tape measure continued measuring on its own as Ollivander pulled boxes from the shelves. "That will do," he said, and the tape measure crumpled to the floor. "Right then, Mr. Potter. Try this one. Beechwood and dragon heartstring. 9 inches. Nice and flexible. Just take it and give it a wave." Harry took the wand and waved it, but Ollivander snatched it back almost immediately. "Maple and phoenix feather. 7 inches. Quite whippy. Try." Harry tried, but this too was snatched back. Wand after wand followed, the pile of tried wands mounting higher on the spindly chair nearby. Tricky customer, eh? Not to worry, we'll find the perfect match here somewhere. I wonder now, yes, why not? Unusual combination, holly and phoenix feather, 11 inches, nice and supple. As Harry's fingers closed around this wand, he felt immediate warmth. The spirit surged within him, resonating with the wand's magic. He raised it above his head and brought it swishing down, but instead of the shower of red and gold sparks Ollivander seemed to expect, the wand erupted with a stream of golden fire that briefly formed the shape of a burning skull before dissipating into harmless sparks. Ollivander's eyes widened. "Oh my," he breathed. "Oh my indeed. Is that normal?" Hagrid asked nervously from his corner. "Normal? No, Mr. Hagrid, not normal at all. But then," Ollivander's pale gaze fixed on Harry, "Mr. Potter is far from a normal wizard, isn't he? The wand has chosen, but it seems to have acknowledged, both of you." Harry gripped the wand tighter. "Both of us? You and your passenger," Ollivander said delicately. "Curious indeed that this particular wand should choose you. The phoenix feather in your wand came from a bird that gave just one other feather, the one in Voldemort's wand," Harry finished. "You mentioned that." Ollivander flinched at the name. "Yes. The brother wand to the one that gave you that scar." His eyes flicked to Harry's forehead. "I think we must expect unusual things from you, Mr. Potter. Very unusual indeed." As they left the shop, Harry's new wand secure in its box, the spirit seemed thoughtful. "A connection to Voldemort's wand, and the wand recognized my presence within you. This may prove significant." "Is it bad?" Harry asked silently. "Having a wand connected to his?" "Not bad. Different. Magic often works in patterns, young vessel. This connection exists for a reason we do not yet understand." Harry nodded, fingering the wand box as they made their way back toward the leaky cauldron. His mind buzzed with everything he'd seen and learned, a world beyond his wildest dreams, now open to him. And somewhere in that world, perhaps, the answers to what had really happened the night his parents died. The true nature of his connection to Voldemort. And most importantly, where he and the spirit fit into it all. Platform 9 3/4 bustled with activity, students loading trunks onto the Scarlet Hogwarts Express, parents giving last-minute instructions and tearful goodbyes, owls hooting indignantly in their cages. Harry pushed his trolley through the crowd, Hedwig's cage balanced precariously atop his trunk. He made his own way to King's Cross, having insisted to the Dursleys that he could manage. In truth, he'd wanted time to center himself, to prepare mentally for immersion in the wizarding world without the buffer of Hagrid's friendly presence. Many magical signatures, the spirit noted as they moved through the platform. Strong ones? Weak ones? Some. Interesting. Define interesting, Harry murmured, quiet enough that no one nearby would hear. Old family magic. Blood-based. Some tinged with darkness, though not necessarily evil. Complexity, little vessel, you'll find much of it here. Harry nodded slightly, continuing toward the train. He'd spent the month since his birthday reading his textbooks and the additional volumes he'd purchased, absorbing as much knowledge as possible about the world he was entering. The spirit had guided his studies, drawing on its ancient understanding to contextualize the modern wizarding information. As he struggled to heave his trunk up the steps of the train, a voice called out behind him. "Want a hand?" Harry turned to see a tall, red-headed boy about his age, freckles scattered across his friendly face. "Thanks." Harry accepted, and together they managed to haul the trunk into an empty compartment. "I'm Ron, by the way," the boy said. "Ron Weasley." "Harry Potter," Harry replied, watching as Ron's eyes widened with the now familiar recognition. "Are you really?" Ron blurted. "Do you have the you-know?" He pointed at his own forehead. Harry lifted his fringe to show the lightning scar. "That's not the interesting part of me," he said, more to himself than to Ron. "What do you mean?" Ron asked, but before Harry could decide how to respond, a voice called from outside. "Ron! Where are you?" "Coming, Mum." Ron called back. I'll see you on the train, yeah? Harry nodded, settling into the compartment as Ron hurried back to his family. Through the window, he could see a plump woman surrounded by several red-headed children, clearly Ron's family, saying their goodbyes. The spirit stirred with interest as it observed them. A warm family. Strong bonds. The mother's soul shines with protective love. Different from your relatives. Most families are. Harry replied softly. The train whistle blew, and moments later Ron returned, sliding into the seat opposite Harry as the Hogwarts Express began to move. Is it true? Ron asked immediately. People are saying Harry Potter's on the train. That's you, right? Yes, Harry confirmed simply. And did you really? Ron lowered his voice. Defeat you-know-who when you were a baby? Harry studied Ron carefully, feeling the spirit's assessment running alongside his own. The redhead radiated honest curiosity rather than the morbid fascination Harry had encountered in Diagon Alley. I don't remember much, Harry said truthfully. Just a green light and pain. But I've learned there's more to the story than most people know. Ron leaned forward eagerly. Like what? Before Harry could decide how much to reveal, the compartment door slid open to reveal a round-faced boy looking tearful. Sorry, he said, but have you seen a toad? I've lost him. No, sorry, Ron replied, and the boy left, looking miserable. His name's Neville Longbottom, Ron explained after the door closed. Don't know why he's so bothered. If I'd brought a toad, I'd lose it as quick as I could. Mind you, I brought Scabbers, so I can't talk. He pulled a fat gray rat from his pocket. The instant the rat appeared, Harry felt the spirit surge with such sudden intensity that his eyes flashed golden. Ron gasped, nearly dropping Scabbers, who squeaked in apparent terror. Bloody hell! Ron exclaimed. What was that? Harry blinked rapidly, fighting to contain the spirit's unexpected reaction. Sorry, he managed, though his voice carried an echo of the spirit's resonance. It's complicated. That rat is not what it appears, the spirit hissed, its essence roiling with rage. It carries a human soul, twisted, stained with betrayal and death. Are you all right? Ron asked, looking concerned. Your eyes went all funny. Harry took a deep breath, regaining control. I'm fine. But your rat. There's something not right about it. Ron looked down at the now trembling Scabbers. What do you mean? He's just an old rat. Been in the family for years, was my brother Percy's before me. How many years? Harry asked sharply. Dunno. 10, maybe? Why? Too long for a common rat, the spirit noted. This confirms our suspicion. The creature is an animagus, a wizard in animal form. And his soul cries out for judgment. Harry's mind raced. He couldn't exactly explain to Ron that an ancient spirit of vengeance was telling him his pet rat was actually a human criminal in disguise. At least, not without sounding completely mad. It's just unusual for a rat to live that long, Harry said instead. And he seems scared of me. Ron frowned, stroking Scabbers' head with one finger. Well, he's a bit pathetic, but he's all I've got. Not like I could afford an owl or anything. His ears reddened slightly. Sensing Ron's embarrassment, Harry decided to let the matter drop for now. He would discuss it with the spirit later, when they were alone. Wise, the spirit agreed. We will investigate this rat further when opportunity presents itself. The conversation shifted to safer topics. Ron's large family, 5 older brothers and a younger sister, wizarding sweets, which appeared when a dimpled woman with a trolley came by, and Quidditch, which Ron described with passionate enthusiasm. Harry listened attentively, filing away information about the wizarding world. Their peaceful journey was interrupted when the compartment door slid open again. This time, it revealed the pale boy Harry had met in Madame Malkin's robe shop, flanked by 2 thick-set boys who looked like bodyguards. Is it true? The boy said. They're saying all down the train that Harry Potter's in this compartment. So it's you, is it? Yes, Harry said coolly, recognizing the calculating assessment in the boy's pale eyes. This is Crabbe and Goyle, the boy said carelessly, indicating his companions. And I'm Malfoy, Draco Malfoy. Ron gave a slight cough, which might have been hiding a snigger. Draco Malfoy looked at him sharply. Think my name's funny, do you? No need to ask who you are. My father told me all the Weasleys have red hair, freckles, and more children than they can afford. He turned back to Harry. You'll soon find out some wizarding families are much better than others, Potter. You don't want to go making friends with the wrong sort. I can help you there. He extended his hand to shake Harry's, but Harry didn't take it. Instead, he studied Malfoy with the spirit's insight, seeing shadows of prejudice and cruelty learned from parents, but not yet fully formed in the boy himself. I think I can tell who the wrong sort are for myself, thanks, he said quietly. And I'd suggest being careful about judging others based on their families. It reveals more about you than them. Malfoy didn't go red, but a pink tinge appeared in his pale cheeks. I'd be careful if I were you, Potter, he said slowly. Unless you're a bit politer, you'll go the same way as your parents. They didn't know what was good for them, either. Harry felt the spirit stir dangerously at the implied threat. He stood slowly, and though he was no taller than Malfoy, something in his posture made the other boy step back. Are you threatening me, Draco? Harry asked, his voice carrying that subtle otherworldly resonance that made Crabbe and Goyle look suddenly uneasy. No, Malfoy said quickly, something like uncertainty flashing across his face. Just giving advice. Here's some advice in return, Harry said softly. Don't speak of my parents again. And remember that appearances can be deceiving. I'm more than I seem. For emphasis, he allowed his eyes to flash golden, just for a second, just enough to plant doubt in Malfoy's mind. The pale boy blanched visibly. Come on, he muttered to Crabbe and Goyle, and the three of them disappeared. Ron stared at Harry with a mixture of awe and wariness. What was that about? And what did you do with your eyes? Harry sat back down, considering his response carefully. The spirit advised caution. Too much revelation too soon could isolate him, but some explanation was necessary if he wanted friendship. I have abilities, Harry said finally. Something happened to me when I was younger. Something that changed me. What kind of abilities? Ron asked, a hint of nervousness in his voice. I can sense things about people. See intentions. And sometimes. Harry hesitated, then decided on a small demonstration. He held out his palm and concentrated, allowing a tiny flame to dance above his fingertips. Ron's eyes widened to the size of saucers. Bloody hell! Is that wandless magic? That's supposed to be really advanced. It's not exactly magic, at least not the kind you learn at Hogwarts, Harry explained, extinguishing the flame. It's something else. Something older. Before Ron could ask more questions, the compartment door slid open yet again. This time, a girl with bushy brown hair and rather large front teeth stood in the doorway. She was already wearing her Hogwarts robes. Has anyone seen a toad? Neville's lost one, she said in a bossy sort of voice. We've already told him we haven't seen it, Ron replied, but the girl wasn't listening. She was looking at Harry with intense curiosity. You're Harry Potter, aren't you? I've read all about you. You're in modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts and great wizarding events of the 20th century. Most of what's in those books is speculation, Harry said. The authors weren't there that night. The girl blinked, momentarily thrown off her stride. I'm Hermione Granger. She recovered, extending her hand. And you are? She added to Ron. Ron Weasley. He muttered. Pleasure, she said, though she seemed distracted. Did I interrupt something? There's a strange energy in here. Perceptive, the spirit noted. She senses our essence, though she doesn't understand what she's feeling. Just getting to know each other, Harry said smoothly. What house do you think you'll be in, Hermione? This successfully diverted her. I've been asking around, and I hope I'm in Gryffindor. It sounds by far the best. I hear Dumbledore himself was in it, but I suppose Ravenclaw wouldn't be too bad. She continued chattering about houses and spells she'd already tried, while Harry observed her curiously. The spirit found her interesting, driven by a need to prove herself, but with a strong moral core. After Hermione left, reminding them to change into their robes, Ron turned to Harry with a serious expression. "Whatever house I'm in, I hope she's not in it," he said, making Harry smile slightly. Then, more hesitantly, "About what you can do, is it dangerous?" Harry considered the question honestly. "It can be, if it needs to be. But not to friends. Never to the innocent." Ron nodded slowly. "Cool," he decided finally. "Think you could teach me any of it?" "It's not something that can be taught," Harry said, relieved by Ron's acceptance. "It's part of me now." As the train continued north toward Hogwarts, Harry felt cautiously optimistic. His first interactions with his peers had gone better than expected. If Ron's reaction was any indication, perhaps he could find acceptance at Hogwarts after all. Harry Potter and the Spirit of Vengeance both. The Hogwarts boats glided across the Black Lake, carrying the first years toward the towering castle ahead. Harry sat with Ron, Hermione, and Neville Longbottom, all of them silent with awe as they approached their new school. "Powerful magic saturates this place," the spirit observed. "Layers upon layers, built over centuries. Protections, enchantments, and something else. Something alive about the castle itself." Harry nodded slightly, feeling it too, a resonance that seemed to welcome them, like the castle was breathing, watching, evaluating. As they disembarked and followed Hagrid up to the castle doors, Harry noticed other students casting curious glances his way. Word of his presence had clearly spread, and he could sense the mixture of awe, curiosity, and in some cases, wariness that surrounded him. Professor McGonagall met them at the entrance, looking exactly as Harry remembered from their meeting years ago, stern, dignified, and undeniably powerful. Her eyes lingered on Harry for just a moment longer than the others, a flicker of recognition and something like concern passing across her features. "Welcome to Hogwarts," she said, addressing the entire group. "The start of term banquet will begin shortly, but before you take your seats in the Great Hall, you will be sorted into your houses." As she explained the house system, Harry felt the spirit's attention focusing on the castle itself, exploring the magical currents flowing through the ancient stones. "This place has seen justice and injustice in equal measure," it commented. "Blood has been spilled here, lives lost and saved. It remembers." "How do they sort us?" Harry asked Ron quietly as McGonagall left them temporarily. "Some sort of test, I think. Fred said it hurts a lot, but I think he was joking." Ron looked distinctly nervous. Beside them, Hermione was whispering very fast about all the spells she'd learned and wondering which one she'd need. Harry remained calm, the spirit's ancient presence steadying him as it always did in uncertain situations. When McGonagall returned, she led them through the double doors into the Great Hall, a magnificent space with thousands of floating candles, for long tables filled with students, and a staff table at the top where the teachers sat. Harry immediately spotted Dumbledore in the center of the high table, his silver beard shining as brightly as the ghosts that floated among the tables. Their eyes met briefly across the hall, and Harry felt the spirit stir with recognition. The headmaster nodded slightly, a gesture so subtle only Harry would notice it. "He acknowledges our presence," the spirit noted. "And our agreement." McGonagall placed a four-legged stool in front of the first years, and atop it, a pointed wizard's hat, patched, frayed, and extremely dirty. To Harry's surprise, a rip near the brim opened like a mouth, and the hat began to sing a song about the four houses and its role in sorting students. "So we've just got to try on the hat," Ron whispered, looking relieved. "I'll kill Fred, he was going on about wrestling a troll." Harry smiled slightly, though his attention was focused on the hat itself. The spirit seemed intrigued by the magical artifact. A semi-sentient magical object, it observed. Created to see into minds and souls. Interesting that it will examine us both. As McGonagall began calling students forward alphabetically, Harry watched the sorting process with interest. The hat sometimes decided immediately, other times took longer to deliberate. Hermione Granger went to Gryffindor after nearly a full minute. Draco Malfoy was instantly sorted into Slytherin, looking smugly pleased. Finally, McGonagall called, "Potter, Harry!" As Harry stepped forward, whispers broke out across the hall. "Potter, did she say? The Harry Potter?" He sat on the stool, and the last thing he saw before the hat dropped over his eyes was the hall full of people craning to get a good look at him. "Well, well, what do we have here?" said a small voice in his ear. "Or should I say, what do we have two of here? Most unusual. I've sorted thousands of students over the centuries, but never one housing an entity such as this." "We are bonded," the spirit replied directly to the hat. "One vessel, one spirit." "So I see," the hat mused. "A complex situation indeed. Let me examine young Mr. Potter first." Harry felt a gentle probing sensation as the hat sifted through his mind and memories. "Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind either. There's talent, oh my goodness, yes, and a thirst to prove yourself, that's interesting. But where to put you? You could be great in Slytherin, you know, it's all here in your head." "I'd prefer not to be with Malfoy," Harry thought. "Not Slytherin, eh? Are you sure? You could be great, you know, it's all here in your head, and Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness, no doubt about that." "We seek justice, not greatness for its own sake," the spirit interjected. "Ah, yes, the spirit speaks. Let me examine you as well, Ancient One." There was a long pause as the hat communed directly with the spirit. Harry could sense them sharing information, the hat probing deeper than it had with him, the spirit allowing limited access to its essence. Finally, the hat spoke again. I see. A spirit of vengeance bonded to a child wizard, unprecedented. Your path will not be an easy one, Mr. Potter, but I believe I know where you belong." "Gryffindor!" the hat shouted to the hall. The Gryffindor table erupted with the loudest cheer yet. Harry removed the hat and walked somewhat dazedly toward his new house, where Percy Weasley the prefect got up and shook his hand vigorously, and the Weasley twins yelled, "We got Potter! We got Potter!" As he sat down, Harry glanced up at the high table. Hagrid gave him a thumbs up. Professor McGonagall watched him with an unreadable expression. And Dumbledore, the headmaster, was studying him with keen interest, his fingers steepled beneath his long silver beard. Next to Dumbledore sat a sallow-faced man with greasy black hair and a hooked nose, wearing black robes. As their eyes met, Harry felt a sharp pain in his scar, and simultaneously, the spirit flared with unexpected intensity. "That one has a fractured soul," it hissed. "Divided loyalties. Deep grief and rage beneath the surface. And he looks at you with complex hatred." "Who's that teacher talking to Professor Quirrell?" Harry asked Percy, indicating the black-robed man. "Oh, you know Quirrell already, do you? No wonder he's looking so nervous, that's Professor Snape. He teaches potions, but he doesn't want to. Everyone knows he's after Quirrell's job. Knows an awful lot about the dark arts, Snape." Harry looked from Snape to the nervous-looking man with a purple turban he was speaking to, presumably Professor Quirrell. As he studied Quirrell, the spirit stirred again, with even greater alarm. "Something is wrong with that one," it warned. "Very wrong. There's an echo. A second presence, hidden beneath the surface." Harry frowned. "The one with the turban? What do you mean, a second presence?" "I cannot tell clearly at this distance," the spirit replied. "But there is darkness there. Corruption. We must watch him carefully." The remainder of the sorting passed in a blur, Ron joining Harry at the Gryffindor table as he'd hoped. Dumbledore gave a brief, eccentric welcome speech, and then the feast appeared magically on the golden plates. As Harry ate, he found himself the center of attention at the Gryffindor table. Students peppered him with questions about his life, about defeating Voldemort as a baby, about his lightning scar. He answered politely but vaguely, deflecting when necessary. No one asked about his eyes, which occasionally caught the candlelight in ways that made them seem to glow. No one except Hermione Granger, who studied him with analytical intensity from across the table. "Your eyes sometimes look different," she said during a lull in conversation. Is that a magical condition? Harry met her gaze steadily. Something like that, he said. It's connected to what happened when I was a baby. This wasn't entirely a lie. The spirit had been drawn to him partly because of the magical trauma he'd experienced as an infant, the way it had marked his soul and magical core. Hermione looked like she wanted to ask more questions, but Percy Weasley interrupted with information about classes and schedules, and the moment passed. As the feast concluded and the first years followed Percy to Gryffindor Tower, Harry felt a complex mixture of emotions. Excitement for the magical education ahead, wariness about Professor Snape's apparent hostility, and the mysterious wrongness the spirit sensed in Professor Quirrell. And underneath it all, a profound sense of belonging, to Hogwarts, to Gryffindor, to the wizarding world that had been his birthright all along. We have taken our first steps, the spirit murmured as Harry settled into his four-poster bed in the first-year boys' dormitory. The path of justice unfolds before us. And Voldemort? Harry whispered, quiet enough that his sleeping roommates wouldn't hear. Closer than we thought, perhaps, the spirit replied cryptically. Rest now, little vessel. Tomorrow we begin to learn the magic of your kind. Harry closed his eyes, the spirit's ancient presence a comforting flame within him as he drifted to sleep beneath the vaulted ceiling of Gryffindor Tower. Harry's first weeks at Hogwarts passed in a whirlwind of new experiences. Classes ranged from fascinating, charms, transfiguration, to tedious, history of magic, to downright hostile, potions, where Professor Snape seemed determined to make Harry miserable. Throughout it all, the spirit observed, commented, and occasionally guided, pointing out magical principles that aligned with its own ancient understanding, noting the strengths and weaknesses of various professors, helping Harry navigate the complex social dynamics of the school. Ron quickly became Harry's closest friend, accepting his occasional oddities with good-natured tolerance. Hermione Granger, initially bossy and somewhat overbearing, hovered at the periphery of their friendship, clearly curious about Harry but unsure how to approach. The incident with Snape during their first potions lesson had set the tone for that relationship. The potions master had singled Harry out immediately, firing difficult questions at him and sneering when Harry couldn't answer. Clearly, fame isn't everything, Snape had said silkily. Harry had maintained his composure, the spirit helping him control his temper, but he'd felt his eyes beginning to glow. Snape had noticed, faltering momentarily in his mockery, a flicker of something like recognition and fear crossing his sallow features. After class, the professor had pulled Harry aside. Whatever parlor tricks you're playing at, Potter, they won't work with me, he'd hissed. You may have fooled the headmaster with your condition, but I see through it. Harry had looked directly into Snape's dark eyes, allowing just a hint of the spirit's fire to show through his own. It's not a trick, Professor. And I wouldn't advise testing it. They'd maintained an uneasy détente since then, Snape treating Harry with cold disdain but stopping short of outright provocation. More concerning was Professor Quirrell, whose class on defense against the dark arts should have been fascinating but was rendered nearly useless by the man's apparent nervous disposition. The spirit remained deeply suspicious of him. His stutter is an affectation, it observed during their third data lesson. And the magical signature emanating from his turban doesn't match his own. There is concealment at work here, powerful concealment. What should we do about it? Harry asked silently as he pretended to take notes on vampire repellents. Observe. Gather evidence. We are not yet strong enough to confront whatever hides within him directly. Flying lessons provided a welcome distraction from these concerns. Harry discovered a natural talent for broomstick riding, earning him a place on the Gryffindor Quidditch team as the youngest seeker in a century after he caught Neville's Remembrall during an unauthorized dive. The spirit had been amused by his aerial prowess. Flames and flight have always paired well, it commented as Harry soared through the air during his first practice session. When you're ready for full transformation, you'll understand truly what it means to ride. But not all moments at Hogwarts were positive. Harry's fame made him a target for whispers and stares, and occasional demonstrations of the spirit's influence, golden eyes, small flames, temperature fluctuations when his emotions ran high, only added to his mystique and others' wariness. The most difficult incident came during Halloween. The feast had been interrupted by Professor Quirrell rushing into the Great Hall, shouting about a troll in the dungeons before fainting in what the spirit immediately identified as a theatrical performance. As students were led back to their dormitories, Ron remembered that Hermione, upset after he'd made an unkind comment about her earlier, was crying in the girls' bathroom and wouldn't know about the troll. Against Percy's instructions, Harry and Ron slipped away to warn her. They found not only Hermione but the troll itself, a 12-foot mountain of stench and stupidity that had wandered into the bathroom and cornered the terrified girl. "Distract it!" Harry yelled to Ron, grabbing a tap and throwing it against the wall. The troll turned its tiny eyes toward the noise, giving Hermione a chance to run. But she remained frozen against the wall, mouth open in terror as the creature advanced on Harry instead. In that moment, with his friend in danger and a monster bearing down on him, Harry felt the spirit surge forward with protective rage. "Let me," it demanded. "Let me take control." For the first time, Harry surrendered completely to the spirit's influence. His eyes blazed with golden fire, his skin began to glow from within, and his voice carried supernatural resonance as he addressed the troll. "Creature of violence," he thundered, the voice only partly his own. "You threaten innocence. Face judgment." The troll hesitated, its tiny brain registering the sudden change in its prey. Harry, or rather, the spirit using Harry's body, raised a hand. Flames erupted from his fingertips, forming a whip of fire that lashed across the troll's chest. The creature roared in pain and confusion, swinging its club wildly. Ron and Hermione stared in shock as Harry dodged with inhuman grace, the fiery whip striking again and again. "Harry?" Ron called, his voice cracking. "What's happening to you?" But Harry couldn't answer, not fully in control of his own body. The spirit was careful not to burn or permanently harm the troll, which was acting on instinct rather than malice, but it needed to incapacitate the threat. With a final, powerful stroke, the fire whip wrapped around the troll's ankle and yanked, sending the massive creature crashing to the floor. Its head hit the stone with a sickening crack, and it lay still. The flames extinguished. Harry swayed on his feet as the spirit relinquished control, returning his appearance to normal just as the bathroom door burst open to reveal Professors McGonagall, Snape, and Quirrell. "What on earth were you thinking?" McGonagall demanded, looking at the unconscious troll, then at the three students. "You're lucky you weren't killed. Why aren't you in your dormitory?" To Harry's surprise, Hermione spoke up, taking blame for the incident and claiming Harry and Ron had come looking for her. McGonagall deducted points but seemed relieved they were unharmed. As they left the bathroom, however, Harry noticed Quirrell staring at him with an expression very different from his usual nervous demeanor, calculation, suspicion, and something like recognition in his eyes. And beside him, Snape was examining a tear in his robes, blood seeping from a wound on his leg. Back in the common room, after Ron had gone to bed, Hermione approached Harry quietly. "What was that?" she asked without preamble. "In the bathroom, with the troll. You changed." Harry studied her, sensing the spirit's cautious assessment alongside his own. Hermione was intelligent, observant, and clearly not easily fooled. Perhaps it was time for limited honesty. "I have something inside me," he said carefully. "Something that helps me protect people. It's been with me since I was 6. Hermione's brow furrowed. "Like possession?" "Harry, that sounds dangerous." "Not possession," he corrected. "Partnership. It's called the spirit of vengeance. It judges those who harm innocents. That's why your eyes glow sometimes," she realized. "And how you made fire without a wand." She paused, processing this information with remarkable composure for a 12-year-old. "Does Ron know?" "He knows some of it. Not everything." Hermione nodded slowly. Are you in control of it? Or is it controlling you?" "We're balanced," Harry said. "It needs my humanity, and I need its power and knowledge. We work together." That's why you seem different sometimes, she observed. Older. Like you know things you shouldn't. Harry nodded, relieved by her calm analysis. The spirit is ancient. It's seen civilizations rise and fall. It understands things I'm still learning. And Dumbledore allows this? Hermione asked, her respect for authority clearly warring with concern for her friend. We have an agreement, Harry confirmed. As long as we don't harm innocents, he doesn't interfere. Hermione was silent for a long moment, then to Harry's surprise she smiled slightly. Well, it did save us from the troll. I suppose I should be grateful. Her expression grew serious again. But be careful, Harry. Power like that, it must be tempting sometimes. That's why we balance each other, Harry said. I keep it from becoming too harsh, too vengeful. It keeps me from becoming too naive, too trusting. As they said goodnight, Harry felt lighter for having shared some of his truth with another friend. The spirit, too, seemed pleased. She has a good soul, it commented. Sharp mind. Strong moral compass. A valuable ally. Harry agreed. But as he drifted toward sleep, his thoughts returned to Quirrell's calculating gaze, to Snape's injured leg, to the mystery that seemed to be brewing beneath the surface of Hogwarts. We must remain vigilant, the spirit whispered as sleep claimed him. Darkness gathers, little vessel. And we shall be ready when it strikes. The mystery deepened as winter settled over the castle. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, now firmly bonded as friends after the troll incident, had begun investigating several strange occurrences. The three-headed dog guarding a trapdoor on the third floor. The break-in at Gringotts the day Hagrid had removed a small package from Vault 713. Quirrell's increasingly odd behavior, alternating between excessive nervousness and moments of sharp, cold calculation when he thought no one was watching. Whatever Fluffy's guarding, Snape's trying to steal it, Ron insisted as they huddled in the library during a particularly bitter December afternoon. Hermione looked thoughtful. I'm not sure it's Snape. His timing at Halloween was suspicious, yes, but Professor Quirrell was acting oddly too. Harry nodded, the spirit having voiced similar suspicions. Quirrell's hiding something. I can sense it. This was their code for the spirit's insights, a system they'd developed after Harry had explained his situation to both friends. Ron had been shocked but ultimately accepting, particularly after Hermione pointed out how the spirit had saved them from the troll. What about the package Hagrid took? Hermione mused. He said it was Hogwarts business, something for Dumbledore. Something worth stealing, Harry finished. Something small enough to fit in a pocket. Their research led them to Nicholas Flamel, and eventually to the Philosopher's Stone, capable of transforming metal to gold and producing the elixir of life. A treasure beyond price, especially for someone seeking to regain power or extend their life indefinitely. Voldemort, the spirit whispered when they made the connection. If any fragment of him remains, such an artifact would be irresistible. Harry shared this possibility with his friends, who greeted it with appropriate gravity. The idea that the Dark Lord might not be truly gone, might be seeking return through the stone, was terrifying. But then who's helping him? Ron asked. Quirrell or Snape? Quirrell, Harry said with certainty. There's something wrong with him. Something hidden. As winter melted into spring, evidence mounted. Harry overheard Quirrell sobbing in an empty classroom, apparently arguing with himself, or with someone they couldn't see. During a Quidditch match, Harry's broom was jinxed, nearly throwing him to his death until Hermione set fire to what she thought was Snape's robes but was actually Quirrell's, breaking his concentration. The spirit grew increasingly agitated in Quirrell's presence, especially when Harry was close enough to sense the magical emanations from the professor's turban. There is a parasite within him, it finally concluded during a Dada lesson in late April. A fractured soul, clinging to his life force. Ancient darkness. Hate given form. Voldemort? Harry asked silently, forcing his face to remain neutral as Quirrell lectured about werewolves. It seems likely. The signature resonates with your scar, causing the pain you feel in his presence. We must proceed with extreme caution, little vessel. This fragment of Voldemort is weak, but desperate, and desperation makes even weak enemies dangerous. They brought their suspicions to Professor McGonagall, who dismissed their concerns with irritating adult certainty that the stone was well protected. Dumbledore had been called away to London, conveniently absent just when they needed him most. That night, Harry, Ron, and Hermione made their decision. If the adults wouldn't act, they would protect the stone themselves. Getting past Fluffy proved simple enough with the flute Hagrid had given Harry for Christmas. The Devil's Snare yielded to Hermione's quick thinking and magical fire. The flying keys fell to Harry's seeker skills. Ron's chess mastery guided them through the giant wizard's chess set, though at the cost of a sacrifice that left him injured and unable to continue. "You go on," Ron insisted through the pain of his injuries. "I'll be okay. Stop Quirrell, or Snape, whoever it is." Hermione and Harry continued, solving the logic puzzle of the potions room together. But there was only enough potion for one person to go forward through the black flames. "You're the one who can face this, Harry," Hermione said, gripping his hand tightly. "You have help that I don't." Harry nodded, feeling the spirit stirring in anticipation of confrontation. "Take the other potion. Go back, get Ron, send an owl to Dumbledore. Be careful," she whispered. Don't lose yourself." "I won't," he promised, drinking the potion that would allow him to pass through the flames. As Hermione disappeared back the way they'd come, Harry stepped through the black fire and into the final chamber, where a familiar figure stood before the mirror of Ariste. "I wondered if I'd be seeing you here, Potter," said Professor Quirrell, his voice steady and cold, without a trace of his usual stutter. "As we suspected," the spirit hissed. "The false nervousness falls away at last." "You," Harry said calmly. "Not Snape." Quirrell laughed, a harsh, unfamiliar sound. "Yes, Severus does seem the type, doesn't he? So useful to have him swooping around like an overgrown bat. Next to him, who would suspect P.P. Pur, St. Stuttering Pete Professor Quirrell?" "I did," Harry said, stepping forward cautiously. "Or rather, we did." Quirrell's eyes narrowed. "Ah, yes. Your passenger. The headmaster mentioned something about that, a spirit that had attached itself to you. How interesting that we have that in common, Potter." With a snap of his fingers, Quirrell summoned ropes that bound Harry tightly. "Now wait quietly while I examine this mirror. It's the key to finding the stone." As Quirrell turned back to the mirror, muttering to himself about its secrets, Harry felt the spirit surge forward. "Let me burn the ropes," it urged. But slowly, subtly. "We must not reveal our full strength yet." Harry concentrated, feeling heat building in his skin where the ropes touched him. Gradually, they began to smolder, weakening strand by strand. "I see the stone," Quirrell was saying to the mirror. "I'm presenting it to my master. But how do I get it?" "Use the boy," came a high, cold voice from seemingly nowhere. Harry froze, the spirit suddenly alert with fierce recognition. That voice. That soul signature. Voldemort. Quirrell turned and waved his wand, causing the ropes to fall away, unaware they'd already been nearly burned through. "Come here, Potter. Look in the mirror and tell me what you see." Harry approached slowly, mind racing. The spirit urged caution, suggesting they play along until they understood the full situation. Looking into the mirror, Harry saw his reflection smile at him. It put its hand into its pocket and pulled out a blood-red stone. Then it winked and put the stone back, and as it did so, Harry felt something heavy drop into his real pocket. Somehow, incredibly, he'd gotten the stone. "Well?" snapped Quirrell impatiently. "What do you see?" Harry thought quickly. "I see myself shaking hands with Dumbledore," he lied. "I've won the House Cup." Quirrell cursed and pushed him aside, but as Harry moved to edge toward the exit, the high voice spoke again. "He lies. He lies. Potter, come back here!" Quirrell shouted. "Tell me the truth. What did you see?" The high voice spoke once more. "Let me speak to him, face to face." "Master, you are not strong enough." "I have strength enough for this." With dawning horror, Harry watched as Quirrell began unwrapping his turban. The spirit flared with protective rage, its essence flowing more strongly through Harry's veins. "Prepare yourself," it warned. "We face our enemy at last." As the turban fell away, Quirrell turned slowly on the spot. Where the back of his head should have been, there was a face, the most terrible face Harry had ever seen. Chalk white with glaring red eyes and slits for nostrils, like a snake. "Harry Potter!" it whispered. Harry felt his scar burning with white-hot pain, but the spirit's presence dampened it, allowing him to remain focused. "See what I have become," the face said. "Mere shadow and vapor. I have form only when I can share another's body, but there have always been those willing to let me into their hearts and minds. Unicorn blood has strengthened me. These past weeks, you saw faithful Quirrell drinking it for me in the forest, and once I have the elixir of life, I will be able to create a body of my own. Now, why don't you give me that stone in your pocket?" Harry stepped backward, feeling the spirit surge forward with such force that his eyes blazed golden, his skin beginning to glow from within. "You killed my parents," he said, his voice carrying that otherworldly resonance. "You tried to kill me. And now you feed on unicorns, innocent creatures, to sustain your parasitic existence." Voldemort's red eyes widened with something like shock. "What is this? What magic is this, Potter?" "Not magic," Harry said, allowing the spirit's essence to flow more fully through him. The temperature in the chamber plummeted, frost crystallizing on the stone floor. "Something older. Something you should fear." Together, the spirit urged. "Not full transformation yet, you're still too young, but enough to show our true nature." Harry surrendered to the spirit's guidance, feeling his appearance transform partially. His eyes blazed like miniature suns, his skin glowed as if molten metal flowed beneath it, and around his head, a corona of golden fire formed a suggestion, just a suggestion, of a flaming skull. "Impossible!" Voldemort hissed, genuine fear in his voice. "What are you?" "I am vengeance," Harry replied, the spirit's voice overlapping with his own. "I am judgment. And you, Tom Riddle, have stained your soul with the blood of innocence. Kill him!" Voldemort shrieked, and Quirrell lunged forward, hands outstretched for Harry's throat. But as Quirrell's fingers touched Harry's glowing skin, he screamed and jerked his hands away. His palms were blistering before their eyes, the flesh burned and raw. "What is this magic?" he cried. "Fool!" Voldemort screamed. "Seize him! Seize him!" Quirrell dived at Harry again, knocking him to the floor, hands closing around his throat. Pain seared through Harry's scar, but the spirit's protection was stronger. Where Quirrell touched him, the professor's flesh burned and blistered. "Our essences are anathema to his corrupted soul," the spirit explained as Quirrell howled in agony. "Your mother's protection and my fire combine, he cannot bear our touch." Understanding blazed through Harry's mind. He reached up and pressed his hands against Quirrell's face. "Look at me," he commanded, channeling the spirit's power. "Look into my eyes and feel the pain of those you've harmed." It wasn't a full penance stare. Harry was still too young to channel that much of the spirit's power, but it was enough. As Quirrell stared into Harry's burning eyes, he experienced flashes of the suffering he'd caused, the lives he'd helped destroy by hosting Voldemort. The professor screamed, a sound of pure anguish that echoed through the chamber. He tried to pull away, but Harry held on, guided by the spirit's ancient purpose. "This is justice," Harry said, his voice terrible in its quietness. "This is vengeance." Quirrell's skin cracked and crumbled beneath Harry's touch, his body literally falling apart as the combined forces of Lily Potter's sacrificial protection and the spirit of vengeance's judgment tore through him. "Leave him!" Voldemort shrieked, sensing his host's imminent destruction. "Leave him and flee!" With a final, terrible wail, Quirrell collapsed entirely, his body disintegrating into ash and dust. A vapor rose from the remains, a face formed briefly in the smoke, red eyes glaring with hatred and fear. Then, with a howl of rage, the spectral form of Voldemort rushed at Harry, passing through his body like a freezing wind. The pain in his scar exploded to unbearable levels, and Harry felt consciousness slipping away. The spirit's presence enfolded him protectively as darkness claimed him. "Rest, brave vessel," it whispered. "We have won this battle, if not the war. Rest." Harry's last thought before blackness took him completely was a mixture of triumph and dread. They had faced Voldemort and survived. But the Dark Lord was still out there, formless but determined. And someday, they would meet again. Harry awoke in the hospital wing, sunlight streaming through the windows. His first conscious thought was a question to the spirit: "Are you there?" "Always, little vessel," came the immediate reply. "Our bond remains strong." Relief flooded through him. Memories of the confrontation with Quirrell and Voldemort returned in vivid detail. The partial transformation, the burning touch, the professor's disintegration beneath his hands. "Ah, you're awake!" Dumbledore's voice drew his attention. The headmaster sat beside his bed, blue eyes twinkling but serious. "Sir?" Harry croaked, his throat dry. "The stone's safe," Dumbledore assured him. "And Quirrell can no longer assist Lord Voldemort in obtaining it." Harry studied the headmaster carefully, sensing the spirit's cautious assessment alongside his own. "You knew it was Quirrell all along?" "I had my suspicions," Dumbledore admitted. "Though I must confess I didn't anticipate quite such a dramatic resolution." He leaned forward slightly. "Your friend, the Spirit of Vengeance, played quite an active role, I understand." "We faced him together," Harry said. "The Spirit and I. We're stronger together than either of us alone." Dumbledore nodded slowly. "So it would seem." "Professor McGonagall described finding you unconscious, surrounded by a circle of ash that was once Professor Quirrell, your skin still glowing faintly in the darkness." He paused. "The manifestation of your shared abilities appears to be progressing." Harry sensed the concern beneath the careful words. "We maintained control," he assured Dumbledore. "Quirrell chose his path. He was helping Voldemort willingly." "Indeed he was," Dumbledore agreed. "And yet, the manner of his end." He sighed. "Vengeance and justice often walk a narrow line between them, Harry. The Spirit understands that line better than anyone," Harry said firmly. "It's been judging the guilty for centuries. And now that judgment falls to you both," Dumbledore observed. "A heavy responsibility for one so young." "He fears what we may become," the Spirit noted. "Yet he also begins to see our necessity." Harry straightened in the hospital bed. "Our agreement still stands, Professor. We protect the innocent. We harm only those who deserve it." "And who decides what is deserved?" Dumbledore asked gently. "We do," Harry said simply. "Together. The Spirit's ancient wisdom tempered by my humanity." Dumbledore studied him for a long moment, then smiled slightly. "I suppose I must trust in that balance, Harry. Your actions, while rather forceful, did save the stone and prevent Voldemort's return. For that I am grateful." They spoke at length about the stone, which would be destroyed, with Nicholas Flamel's consent, about Voldemort's continued existence as a wraith, and about the blood protection from Lily Potter that had helped Harry against Quirrell. "Your mother's sacrifice created a protection that lives in your very skin," Dumbledore explained. "Voldemort, who deals in hatred and craves power, cannot touch someone marked by something so good, so pure. It worked with the Spirit's essence," Harry noted. "They combined somehow." "Yes," Dumbledore said thoughtfully. "Most interesting. Perhaps your mother's protection recognized the Spirit's fundamental purpose, to protect the innocent, to punish the guilty. Despite its sometimes harsh methods, its core nature aligned with her sacrifice." As their conversation concluded, Dumbledore rose to leave. "Rest now, Harry. Your friends will be anxious to see you when Madame Pomfrey permits visitors." At the door, he paused. "One last thing. Our agreement remains in place, but I would ask that you exercise particular caution in the use of your more dramatic abilities. Hogwarts has seen many wonders in its time, but a student who transforms into a flaming avatar of vengeance would test even our broad-minded approach to magical education." Harry smiled slightly. We'll be careful, Professor. After Dumbledore left, Harry conversed silently with the spirit, processing all that had happened. We were right about Quirrell, he noted. And about Voldemort trying to return. Indeed, the spirit agreed. Though we have merely delayed him, not defeated him. His soul is anchored to this world somehow, fractured, damaged, but persistent. What now? Harry asked. Now we rest, recover, and prepare. You are growing stronger, little vessel. In time, you will be able to channel more of my essence, perhaps even achieve full transformation. And when Voldemort returns again, as he surely will, we shall be ready. Ron and Hermione visited later, both pale and worried until they saw Harry sitting up in bed. They'd been told a sanitized version of events, that Harry had somehow stopped Quirrell using his mother's protection, with no mention of partial transformation into a flaming spirit of vengeance. What really happened? Hermione whispered, once they were certain they wouldn't be overheard. Harry told them everything, the confrontation, the partial transformation, Quirrell's disintegration, Voldemort's wraith-like escape. Blimey! Ron breathed when he'd finished. That's intense, Harry. Are you okay? Hermione asked, her brow furrowed with concern. Using that much of the spirit's power. I'm fine, Harry assured them. Tired, but fine. The spirit and I, we work better together now. More in sync. They nodded, accepting his assessment, though Hermione still looked worried. What about Voldemort? Ron asked. If he's still out there. We'll face him again, Harry said with quiet certainty. And next time, we'll be stronger. The school year concluded with a dramatic twist at the end of term feast. Slytherin had been leading the House Cup, but Dumbledore awarded last-minute points to Harry, Ron, Hermione, and Neville that pushed Gryffindor into first place. As red and gold decorations replaced green and silver, Harry caught Dumbledore's eye across the hall. The headmaster raised his goblet slightly in acknowledgement. A peace offering, the spirit observed. Recognition of our contribution, despite his concerns about our methods. Harry nodded slightly, raising his own goblet in return. Their relationship with Dumbledore remained complex, mutual respect mixed with wariness on both sides, but they had reached a kind of understanding. For now, that was enough. As the Hogwarts Express carried them back toward London the next day, Harry gazed out at the rolling countryside, reflecting on all that had changed in a single year. He had found friends who accepted him, both aspects of him. He had discovered his heritage as a wizard. And he had faced Voldemort for the second time in his life, emerging stronger for the encounter. What are you thinking, little vessel? The spirit asked. That this is just the beginning, Harry replied silently. Voldemort will return. And we'll be waiting. Indeed we will, the spirit agreed, its ancient presence a comforting flame within him. The path of vengeance is long, but we walk it together. Harry smiled slightly, watching as the landscape rushed by. Summer at the Dursleys awaited, though they would behave themselves, knowing what he had become. And beyond that, more years at Hogwarts, more magic to learn, more of the spirit's powers to master. The boy who lived and the spirit of vengeance. An unlikely partnership, forged in fire, tested in battle, and now bound more tightly than ever. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Chapter 3: Souls in the Balance. The crack of apparition echoed through the empty playground. A heartbeat later, the air shimmered with heat, and flames erupted from nowhere, coalescing into a humanoid figure that burned white-hot against the night. Golden fire wreathed the 13-year-old boy's form, his skull-like face turning slowly to track his prey through empty swings and abandoned slides. Where are you, Stanley Shumpike? The voice echoed with otherworldly resonance, simultaneously young and ancient. You cannot hide from vengeance. A whimper from behind the equipment shed gave away the position of a gangly wizard clutching a wand with white-knuckled terror. The fiery figure moved with terrible purpose, crossing the distance in blinks rather than steps. Please, Shumpike stammered, pressing his back against peeling wood. It wasn't what it looked like. I wasn't really going to use that potion on her. I just wanted to scare her a bit. A burning hand shot out, pinning the wizard against the shed. Though the touch didn't burn his clothing, Shunpike screamed as if it did. Lies taste bitter, Stanley. The flaming skull leaned closer. I can smell the amortentia on your breath. You meant to strip away her will, to make her love you against her nature. Please, look into my eyes, Stanley Shunpike. Feel what she would have felt. The wizard tried to look away but found himself unable to resist the pull of those burning eye sockets. As their gazes locked, Shunpike's scream transformed into a sound of pure anguish, experiencing in compressed moments the violation, the loss of self, the existential horror his victim would have suffered had he succeeded. When it ended, he slumped to the ground, sobbing. Remember this pain, the figure said, its voice becoming more human as the flames began to recede. If you ever attempt such a violation again, the penance stare will not end. The ministry may treat love potions as pranks, but I do not. Do you understand? Shunpike nodded frantically, unable to form words through his tears. Good. The flames withdrew completely, revealing a 13-year-old Harry Potter, green eyes cooling from their golden glow. The night bus is coming. I suggest you find a new line of work. True to his word, the thunderous roar of the triple-decker purple bus approached in the distance. Harry pulled his invisibility cloak from his pocket and disappeared beneath it, watching dispassionately as Stanley Shunpike, now former conductor of the night bus, who'd been caught attempting to slip amortentia to a Muggle woman, was collected by his replacement. Did it work? An anxious voice whispered as Harry rejoined his companion at the edge of the playground. Yes, Harry confirmed, lifting the cloak to reveal Hermione's worried face beside him. He won't try that again. Was the full transformation really necessary? She asked as they began walking back toward Magnolia Crescent. You know, Dumbledore warned about using that level of power outside Hogwarts. Some lessons require emphasis, Harry replied. And technically, we're still invisible to Muggles. She worries for good reason, the spirit commented. That was our third full transformation this summer. Each one draws more attention. I know, Harry admitted silently. But he was targeting Muggles with a love potion. The ministry wouldn't have done anything. Hermione sighed, clearly conflicted. I'm not saying he didn't deserve it. What he planned was horrible. But the trace doesn't register the spirit's power. Harry finished. We've tested that thoroughly. They walked in silence for a while, the summer night warm around them. Harry had invited Hermione to stay with him at the Dursleys for 2 weeks, an arrangement his relatives had agreed to with minimal resistance, their fear of Harry outweighing any objection to hosting another freak. The invitation had served multiple purposes, rescuing Hermione from the boredom of her parents' dental conference, giving Harry company during the summer, and providing cover for his occasional outings as the spirit's vessel. How did it feel? Hermione asked finally, her academic curiosity winning out over her reservations. The full transformation. Harry considered the question. Natural, he said after a moment. Like finally stretching after being cramped in a small space. The spirit and I, we're more integrated now. The transformation is smoother. And the penance stare? That's what you called it before? It's more controlled, Harry explained. Before, it was all or nothing. Now I can modulate it, show someone exactly what they need to see, no more, no less. Hermione nodded, processing this information as they turned onto Privet Drive. Your control has improved significantly. But Harry... She hesitated, choosing her words carefully. I worry about the lines you're crossing. What lines? He asked, though he knew what she meant. Between punishment and vengeance. Between justice and something else. She stopped walking, forcing him to face her. The spirit's influence is growing. Sometimes when you talk, I can't tell which of you is speaking. Harry felt the spirit stir defensively. Is that so terrible? We're partners, Hermione. 2 sides of the same coin. I know, but... She broke off as they approached number 4. We'll talk about this later. Your aunt is watching from the window. Indeed, Petunia Dursley's thin face was visible through the kitchen curtains, her expression a familiar mixture of fear and distaste. Harry sighed and pocketed the invisibility cloak as they approached the front door. "Remember," he said quietly to Hermione, "no mention of tonight to Ron when he writes. He still thinks we're just doing summer homework." Hermione nodded, though her expression remained troubled. "Just promise me you'll be careful, Harry. The more power you use, the more attention you'll attract, and not just from the Ministry." Harry didn't respond directly, but as they entered the unnaturally clean house, he felt the spirit's acknowledgement of her concern. "The girl speaks wisdom," it admitted. "Our actions leave echoes. Magical signatures. And there are those who can read such signs." "Like Dumbledore?" Harry asked silently. "Among others. Your godfather, for instance." Harry nearly stumbled on the stairs at the unexpected mention. "You think Sirius Black could track us through our power signature?" "I did not say that," the spirit corrected. "But the timing of his escape, so soon after our most dramatic demonstrations, it bears consideration." Harry frowned as they reached his bedroom, now expanded with a cot for Hermione, much to Vernon's ongoing dismay. The spirit had been making cryptic comments about Sirius Black ever since the news of his escape from Azkaban had broken earlier that summer. Comments that suggested the entity knew, or at least suspected, something about Black's true nature that contradicted the official story of him betraying Harry's parents. "What aren't you telling me?" Harry demanded silently as Hermione busied herself with her trunk. The spirit's response carried its usual measured patience. "I have told you what I know. His soul does not bear the stain of your parents' murder. But I cannot see the full truth from mere fragments of memory and magical residue. For that, we would need to face him directly." The conversation was interrupted by a soft tapping at the window. A handsome screech owl perched on the sill, a letter tied to its leg. "That's not from Ron," Hermione noted as Harry opened the window. "Ministry seal." Harry untied the letter with a growing sense of unease. Breaking the purple wax seal, he unfolded the parchment. "Dear Mr. Potter, it has come to the attention of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement that unusual magical activity has been detected in your vicinity on multiple occasions this summer. While these manifestations do not register as standard spell work, their magical signature is substantial enough to warrant investigation. Given the current security concerns surrounding the escape of Sirius Black from Azkaban prison, and your particular status as a person of interest in this matter, representatives from the DMLE will be visiting your residence tomorrow at 10 a.m. to discuss these occurrences. Please be advised that this is not a disciplinary hearing, merely an informational interview. Ms. Hermione Granger, currently residing at your address, is also requested to make herself available. Yours sincerely, Amelia Bones, head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement." Harry handed the letter to Hermione, who read it with widening eyes. "I told you," she whispered. "The transformations are being detected. But not as underage magic," Harry pointed out. "They can't tell what it is. That's almost worse. Now they're coming to investigate directly." She began pacing the small room. "What are we going to tell them?" Harry sat on his bed, feeling the spirit's calm assessment flowing through his mind. "A partial truth," he decided finally. "That I have a unique magical condition. One that sometimes manifests in ways beyond my control. We don't mention the spirit directly. And if they press for details, we direct them to Dumbledore," Harry said. "He's agreed to our presence at Hogwarts. That implies Ministry approval." Hermione didn't look convinced, but she nodded reluctantly. "I suppose that's the best approach for now. But Harry..." She sat beside him, brown eyes serious in the lamplight. "This is just the beginning. The stronger you become, the harder it will be to hide what you are." Harry knew she was right. The full transformations, a ability he'd only mastered in the past year, left magical signatures that couldn't be ignored. And with Sirius Black reportedly hunting him, any unusual activity around Harry Potter would draw immediate attention. "We'll deal with it," he said with more confidence than he felt. "One step at a time." As Hermione prepared for bed, Harry gazed out at the summer stars, thinking of the escaped prisoner supposedly hunting him. The man everyone believed had betrayed his parents to Voldemort. Your spirit seems certain Black is innocent, he thought. But if not him, then who betrayed my parents? That, the spirit replied, is what we must discover. And when we find the true traitor. The unfinished thought hung between them, filled with the promise of judgment long delayed. Amelia Bones was not what Harry expected. The square-jawed witch with short gray hair carried herself with the unmistakable authority of someone accustomed to command, but her eyes, sharp behind a monocle, held intelligence rather than suspicion as she studied Harry across the Dursleys' immaculate living room. "Thank you for seeing me, Mr. Potter," she said, declining Vernon's grudging offer of tea. "I understand this visit may seem intrusive." "Not at all, Madam Bones," Harry replied, channeling the formal politeness the spirit often adopted. "I appreciate your directness." Beside him on the sofa, Hermione sat ramrod straight, her nervousness betrayed only by the white-knuckled grip on her skirt. The Dursleys had made themselves scarce, Vernon muttering about more freakishness, as they departed for an impromptu shopping trip. "I'll be equally direct then," Bones continued. "Our detection instruments have registered 3 significant magical events centered on your location this summer. The signature is unlike anything we typically monitor, not underage wizardry, not accidental magic, not even the magical creatures department can identify it." She leaned forward slightly. "Yet it emanates from you, Mr. Potter. Of that, our instruments are certain." Harry felt the spirit's assessment running alongside his own. Bones was direct, honest, but cautious. She wasn't showing all her cards. "I have a condition," Harry said carefully. "One that Professor Dumbledore is aware of. It sometimes manifests in ways that standard magical instruments might not recognize." "A condition?" Bones repeated, one eyebrow rising above her monocle. "Would this be related to the incidents reported at Hogwarts? Glowing eyes, temperature fluctuations, occasional manifestations of fire?" Harry stiffened slightly. He hadn't realized such detailed reports had reached the Ministry. Hogwarts staff are obligated to inform the Ministry of unusual magical phenomena, Bones explained, reading his surprise. "Particularly when they involve the boy who lived." "Yes," Harry acknowledged. "It's the same condition. It's been part of me since I was 6 years old. Since the Dursleys' abuse triggered the bond," Hermione added, then immediately looked like she regretted speaking. Bones' gaze sharpened. "Bond? With what, precisely?" Harry shot Hermione a warning look. "That's not something I'm comfortable discussing in detail, Madam Bones. Professor Dumbledore has examined my situation thoroughly and deemed it safe for me to attend Hogwarts. If you have concerns, I'd suggest speaking with him." The witch studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "I see. A diplomatic deflection, Mr. Potter." The ghost of a smile touched her lips. "Very well. I'll indeed be speaking with Albus. But I should warn you, with Sirius Black at large and apparently targeting you, any unusual magical activity around your person will attract attention. Attention you might prefer to avoid." "I understand," Harry said. "I'll try to keep manifestations to a minimum." "See that you do." Bones rose from her chair. "One more question, if I may. These manifestations, are they defensive in nature? Could they protect you should Black locate you?" Harry considered his answer carefully. "Yes," he said finally. "They're very effective at protection." Something like approval flickered in Bones' eyes. "Good. While I don't encourage vigilantism, Mr. Potter, self-defense is another matter entirely." She moved toward the door, then paused. "Oh, and Mr. Potter? The third manifestation, 2 nights ago in that playground in Little Whinging. Most interesting timing. One of our night bus conductors resigned unexpectedly the same evening. Turned himself in for illegal possession of amortentia, babbling about flaming vengeance." Harry kept his expression neutral. "A coincidence, I'm sure." "Indeed," Bones said dryly. "Good day, Mr. Potter, Miss Granger. I expect we'll be seeing more of each other." After the door closed behind her, Hermione rounded on Harry. "She knows. Or at least strongly suspects." But she didn't press the issue. Harry pointed out. That's interesting. What do you mean? She's the head of magical law enforcement, Hermione. If she thought I was dangerous, she would have taken action. Instead, she practically gave me permission to defend myself against Black. She is a woman who values justice above bureaucracy, the Spirit observed. Rare in positions of authority. Worth remembering. The rest of the summer passed without further official visits, though Harry did receive a brief, cryptic note from Dumbledore. Harry, Madam Bones has expressed concerns about your summer activities. While I have assured her of your situation's unique nature, I must remind you of our agreement regarding discretion. The wizarding world is not yet ready for the full truth of what you carry within you. With caution, AD. The warning was clear enough: scale back the transformations, keep the spirit's manifestations subtle. Harry complied, much to Hermione's relief. Their remaining days at Privet Drive were spent on homework, correspondence with Ron, whose family had won a prize and gone to Egypt, and cautious discussions about the coming school year. The spirit, meanwhile, seemed preoccupied with Sirius Black, occasionally commenting on the escaped prisoner's innocence, suggesting they would need to face him directly to learn the full truth. These cryptic observations left Harry frustrated. If you're so certain he's innocent, why can't you tell me who's guilty? He demanded one night after Hermione had fallen asleep. I have told you. I see fragments, impressions, the stains on souls, the spirit explained patiently. Black soul does not bear the mark of your parents' betrayal. But I cannot identify the true traitor without direct contact, without seeing their soul directly. But you have suspicions, Harry pressed. The spirit's response was measured. There is a taint around the memory of that night, a sense of small, scurrying betrayal. Of transformation and escape. But these are mere impressions, little vessel. Not evidence. Harry frowned, puzzling over these cryptic hints. Small, scurrying, like an animal? An animagus? Perhaps. We shall see when the time comes. Harry couldn't extract anything more concrete, and soon enough, it was time to return to Hogwarts. Mr. Weasley met them at the Leaky Cauldron the night before departure, his normally cheerful face unusually grave as he pulled Harry aside. There's something I need to tell you before you leave, he said quietly, glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard. It's about Sirius Black. He's after me, Harry stated flatly. I've pieced that much together from the Daily Prophet. Mr. Weasley blinked, thrown off his prepared speech. Yes. But it's worse than you might think. The Ministry believes, that is to say, we have information suggesting that he wants to kill me to bring Voldemort back? Harry supplied, ignoring Mr. Weasley's flinch at the name. How did you? It's the logical conclusion, Mr. Weasley. Black was supposedly Voldemort's supporter. I defeated Voldemort. Black escapes and comes after me. Harry shrugged with a casualness he didn't entirely feel. Simple revenge narrative. Mr. Weasley stared at him. You seem very calm about this, Harry. Because I don't believe he's guilty, Harry thought but didn't say. Instead, he smiled slightly. Let's just say I have protections Mr. Black isn't expecting. Even so, promise me you won't go looking for Black. Mr. Weasley insisted, his face deadly serious. No matter what you hear. Harry met his gaze steadily. I promise not to seek him out without good reason, he said carefully. But if he finds me, the Ministry will protect you. Mr. Weasley assured him. There will be Aurors stationed at Hogwarts, and the Dementors of Azkaban guarding all approaches to the school. Dementors? Harry asked sharply, feeling the spirit stir with sudden interest. At Hogwarts? A necessary precaution, I'm afraid. Black is extremely dangerous, the first person ever to escape Azkaban. Harry nodded, though privately he felt a chill at the mention of Dementors. The spirit had reacted strongly to the name, with something like anticipation? What is it? He asked silently. What are Dementors to you? Soul feeders, the spirit replied, its mental voice colder than usual. Abominations that consume happiness, hope, and eventually the soul itself. corrupt entities that have no place in natural order. I understand, Mr. Weasley, Harry said aloud. I'll be careful. Later, as he lay in his room at the Leaky Cauldron, Harry pressed the Spirit for more information. You react to Dementors like their personal enemies, he observed. They are anathema to my purpose, the Spirit explained. I judge the guilty and punish them according to their crimes. Dementors feed indiscriminately, caring nothing for justice or desert. They are parasites, not judges. Can we fight them? Harry asked. If necessary? Yes. The single word carried such deadly certainty that Harry felt a chill. Our fire burns even what should not burn. But such a confrontation would be noticeable. Something to avoid unless absolutely necessary, then, Harry concluded. Indeed. But prepare yourself, little vessel. Their presence will affect you more than most. Your soul burns bright, making you a tempting feast for such creatures. With that comforting thought, Harry drifted into uneasy sleep, dreams filled with hooded figures and a large, black dog watching him from the shadows. The Hogwarts Express rattled northward through increasingly stormy weather. Harry, Ron, and Hermione had found a compartment occupied only by a sleeping man introduced by a worn trunk as Professor R. J. Lupin, presumably the new defense against the dark arts teacher. Ron had been brought up to speed on the summer's events, a sanitized version that emphasized Harry's magical condition, manifesting more strongly, without specific mention of full Ghost Rider transformations or vigilante justice. Now he stared out at the rain lashing the windows, processing what they told him about Sirius Black. But if your condition tells you he's innocent, Ron said slowly, then why is he coming after you? And who really betrayed your parents? We don't know, Hermione answered before Harry could. The Spirit can sense impressions but can't identify the true traitor without direct contact. Harry nodded, studying the sleeping professor with mild suspicion. Even asleep, the man looked exhausted, his light brown hair flecked with gray, his face lined beyond his years, his robes shabby and patched. Should we be talking about this with him here? Ron whispered, gesturing toward Lupin. He's sound asleep, Hermione assured him. And we're being vague enough. The Spirit, meanwhile, had been unusually active since boarding the train, almost restless within Harry's consciousness. What is it? Harry asked silently. You've been on edge since we sat down. This man, the Spirit replied. His soul carries a dual nature. Human, yet not entirely. There is a beast within him, dormant but present. Harry stiffened slightly, glancing at Lupin with renewed interest. Werewolf, he whispered, so quietly even Ron and Hermione barely heard. Hermione's eyes widened. What? Professor Lupin? How could you possibly? The Spirit can sense it, Harry explained under his breath. A dual nature in his soul. Human and beast. Ron paled slightly. A werewolf teaching at Hogwarts. Is that safe? Dumbledore must think so, Hermione reasoned. And it explains his appearance, the premature aging, the exhaustion. The physical toll of transformation is significant. Harry nodded, feeling the Spirit's assessment. Is he dangerous to us? Not inherently, the Spirit judged. His human soul is strong, compassionate. The beast is controlled, contained. There is suffering in him, but no malice. Their whispered discussion was interrupted as the train began to slow, then jerk to a halt entirely. The lamps flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. We can't be there yet, Hermione said, peering out the window. Something's moving out there, Ron reported, rubbing a clear spot on the frosted glass. I think people are coming aboard. Harry felt it before he saw anything, a bone-deep cold that went beyond physical temperature, a creeping despair that seemed to leach happiness from the very air. The Spirit flared protectively within him. Dementors, it hissed. They searched the train. As if confirming his words, the compartment door slowly slid open. A towering, hooded figure stood in the doorway, its face hidden in the depths of its hood. A scabbed, grayish hand protruded from its cloak, looking decayed and corpse-like. The creature drew a long, slow, rattling breath, as if trying to suck something more than air from its surroundings. Immediately, Harry felt ice flooding his chest. Inside his head, he heard a woman screaming, pleading, "Resist!" The spirit commanded, its essence flowing through him like liquid fire, fighting the Dementor's influence. "Do not let it feed!" Harry struggled against the crushing despair, the screaming growing louder in his mind. With tremendous effort, he focused on the spirit's presence, letting its ancient power provide an anchor against the darkness trying to consume him. His eyes began to glow golden in the darkness of the compartment. "Leave!" he managed, his voice carrying just a hint of otherworldly resonance. The Dementor hesitated, sensing something unexpected in its prey. It leaned closer, drawn by Harry's soul yet confused by the dual nature it encountered. Suddenly, Professor Lupin was on his feet, wand raised. "None of us is hiding Sirius Black under our cloaks," he said, voice firm despite having apparently just awakened. "Go." When the Dementor didn't move, Lupin muttered, "Expecto Patronum!" A silvery mist shot from his wand, driving the creature back into the corridor. As the lights flickered back on and the train began to move again, Lupin turned to Harry, who was fighting to suppress the golden glow in his eyes before the professor noticed. "Too late." "Interesting reaction," Lupin commented mildly, breaking a large chocolate bar into pieces. "I've never seen anyone respond to a Dementor quite like that before." He handed chocolate to each of them. "Eat. It helps." Harry accepted the chocolate, avoiding Lupin's gaze. "Thank you, Professor. I believe introductions are in order," Lupin said, studying Harry with undisguised curiosity. "Though I suspect I know who you are." "Harry Potter," Harry confirmed, taking a bite of chocolate and feeling warmth spread through him. "And these are my friends, Ron Weasley and Hermione Granger. Remus Lupin, your new defense against the dark arts teacher." The professor's eyes hadn't left Harry's face. "Your eyes, they were glowing just now. Golden, like fire." Harry exchanged quick glances with Ron and Hermione. "Side effect of a magical condition," he said carefully. "Professor Dumbledore is aware of it." "I see." Lupin didn't press, though his expression suggested he'd be revisiting the topic. "Well, if you'll excuse me, I need to speak with the driver." "Eat the chocolate, it really does help after Dementor exposure." Once Lupin had left, Ron turned to Harry. "That was close. Do you think he suspects anything?" "Definitely," Harry said grimly. "But I'm more concerned about the Dementors. The spirit can help me resist them, but it's unpleasant." "What did you experience?" Hermione asked gently. "When it came in?" Harry swallowed hard. "I heard a woman screaming. Pleading. I think it was my mother. The night Voldemort killed her." His friends fell silent, exchanging concerned glances. "The Dementors force you to relive your worst memories," the spirit explained. "For you, that night is the deepest wound in your soul." "Can we fight them?" Harry asked silently. "Like Lupin did?" "The Patronus charm he used is one method. Our fire is another, more destructive, more final. But as we discussed, such a display would draw unwanted attention." Harry nodded slightly, finishing his chocolate as the train continued toward Hogwarts. Between Sirius Black, Dementors, and a professor who'd witnessed his eyes glowing, this year was already proving complicated. And it hadn't even properly begun. Dumbledore's announcement that Dementors would guard all entrances to Hogwarts grounds cast a pall over the start-of-term feast. The headmaster made no effort to hide his disapproval of the ministry's decision, warning students not to give the creatures any reason to harm them. "They do not distinguish between the one they hunt and the one who gets in their way," he said gravely. "Give them no reason to harm you." Later, in the Gryffindor common room, Harry pulled Ron and Hermione into a quiet corner. "We need to be prepared," he said without preamble. "The Dementors affect me strongly, and the spirit's reaction to them is intense." "How intense?" Ron asked, lowering his voice further as a group of first-years passed by. "Destructive," Harry replied. "Apparently our fire can burn them, but using it would be extremely noticeable. Hermione bit her lip thoughtfully. Then you need to learn the Patronus charm, what Professor Lupin used on the train. It's very advanced magic, but considering your unique situation, you might have an advantage. I'll ask him to teach me, Harry decided. He already suspects something's different about me. Might as well use that interest to my advantage. Speaking of Lupin, Hermione whispered, are you going to tell Dumbledore that you know he's a werewolf? Harry shook his head. Dumbledore already knows. He hired him anyway. That tells me it's not information we need to spread around. Ron looked uncomfortable. Still, a werewolf as a teacher. The spirit says his soul is good, Harry said firmly. The human controls the beast, not the other way around. The conversation shifted to their new classes for third year. Harry had chosen care of magical creatures and divination, largely because Ron had selected them. Hermione, mysteriously, seemed to be taking everything available. How are you going to attend multiple classes at the same time? Harry asked, eyeing her impossibly full schedule. Oh, it's been arranged, she said vaguely. Professor McGonagall sorted it all out. The spirit stirred with interest. Time magic, it observed. Rare and dangerous. The witch must have powerful patronage for such an exception. Harry decided not to press the issue, respecting Hermione's obvious reluctance to elaborate. Instead, he focused on his more immediate concern, approaching Lupin about Patronus lessons without revealing too much about the spirit. His opportunity came sooner than expected. Their first defense against the dark arts lesson proved Lupin was a competent teacher, guiding them through a practical lesson with a boggart that had the entire class buzzing with excitement, aside from Harry, who Lupin had prevented from facing the creature. After class, Harry approached the professor's desk. Sir, could I ask you something? Of course, Harry, Lupin replied, setting aside papers he'd been organizing. And if it's about why I stopped you facing the boggart, I assumed it would take Lord Voldemort's form. Harry shook his head slightly. Actually, I don't think it would. But that's not what I wanted to ask. He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. On the train, when the Dementor came, I reacted badly. Worse than anyone else. That doesn't make you weak, Harry, Lupin said gently. Dementors affect you more than others because there are true horrors in your past that others don't have. I know. But I need to be able to defend myself against them. Could you teach me the charm you used? The Patronus? Lupin studied him, surprise evident. That's very advanced magic, Harry. Many qualified wizards struggle with it. I need to learn it, Harry insisted. With Black supposedly after me and Dementors everywhere. I can't afford to collapse every time they come near. I suppose that's fair, Lupin conceded. Though I must warn you, the Patronus charm requires intense concentration and a certain emotional component that makes it particularly difficult. I can handle it, Harry said with quiet confidence. Lupin smiled slightly. Your confidence reminds me of your father. Very well. We can begin after the holidays. I'm afraid I'm not feeling well at present. The full moon approaches, the spirit noted. His transformation will weaken him temporarily. Thank you, Professor, Harry said, turning to leave. Then, acting on impulse, he added, I hope you feel better after your monthly issue resolves itself. Lupin froze, his face suddenly pale. What did you say? Harry met his gaze steadily. Your secret is safe with us, Professor. The spirit can sense your dual nature, but we don't judge you for it. The spirit? Lupin repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. What exactly do you mean, Harry? Harry realized he'd said too much, but it was too late to backtrack completely. It's part of my condition, he explained carefully. Something that joined with me when I was younger. It sees things others don't. Lupin sank slowly into his chair. Dumbledore mentioned you had experienced changes, but I had no idea. He gestured for Harry to close the door. How much do you know about me? Just that you're a werewolf, Harry said, shutting the door and returning to Lupin's desk. The human side is in control, except during the full moon. The spirit says your soul is good. The spirit judges souls? Lupin asked sharply. What manner of entity is this, Harry? Harry felt the ancient presence stir within him, considering how much to reveal. It's called the Spirit of Vengeance, he said finally. It bonded with me when I was 6, after my relative's mistreatment became too much to bear. Understanding dawned in Lupin's tired eyes. The glow in your eyes on the train, that was this spirit manifesting? Harry nodded. It helps me resist the Dementors, but the effort is difficult. That's why I need to learn the Patronus charm, a less conspicuous defense. Lupin was silent for a long moment, processing this information. Then, to Harry's surprise, he smiled sadly. Your parents would be proud of you, Harry. Facing something so extraordinary with such composure. He sighed. I should have been there for you. I should have checked on you, prevented the situation that led to this bond. You knew my parents? Harry asked, momentarily distracted from the main conversation. Your father was one of my best friends, Lupin confirmed. James, Sirius, Peter, and I were inseparable at Hogwarts. The spirit flared with sudden interest. Ask about Pettigrew, it urged. And the animagus forms. Peter. Pettigrew? Harry asked, following the spirit's guidance. The man Sirius Black supposedly killed? Lupin's expression darkened. Yes. Along with 12 muggles. One spell, devastation everywhere, and all they found of poor Peter was a finger. Were they animagi? Harry asked abruptly. My father and his friends. Lupin's shock was palpable. How could you possibly know that? The spirit sees fragments, Harry explained. Impressions around memories. It sensed something about transformation connected to my parents' betrayal. Your father, Sirius, and Peter became animagi to keep me company during my transformations, Lupin said quietly, clearly deciding that honesty was the best approach. It was illegal, they never registered, but it meant the world to me. They could safely be with me during the full moon as animals. What forms did they take? Harry pressed, feeling the spirit's urgent interest. James was a stag. Sirius, a large black dog. And Peter? Lupin hesitated. Peter was a rat. A rat, the spirit repeated, a cold certainty forming in its ancient consciousness. A small, scurrying betrayer. A finger, the only piece found. Harry felt the pieces connecting in his mind, guided by the spirit's insights. Professor, what if Peter didn't die that day? What if he faked his death, framed Sirius, and escaped in his animagus form? Lupin stared at him, shock giving way to angry dismissal. That's impossible. Witnesses saw Sirius corner Peter. Heard Peter accuse Sirius of betraying James and Lily before Sirius blew up the street. But if Peter was the secret keeper, not Sirius, Sirius was the secret keeper. Lupin interrupted firmly. Everyone knew that. The perfect misdirection, the spirit observed. The obvious choice that makes the true traitor invisible. What if they switched? Harry suggested, the spirit's certainty reinforcing his own growing conviction. What if Sirius convinced my parents to use Peter instead, thinking no one would suspect him? Lupin opened his mouth to object, then closed it slowly, doubt creeping across his features. That would explain why Sirius went after Peter, not fled the country. He shook his head sharply. But it's just speculation, Harry. Without proof, Ron's rat, Harry said suddenly. Scabbers. He's been in the Weasley family for 12 years. Far too long for a normal rat. And he's missing a toe. The color drained from Lupin's face. Missing a toe? Which one? Front paw, Harry confirmed. What if it's not a toe, but a finger? Lupin stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the stone floor. I need to think about this, Harry. If what you're suggesting is even remotely possible. He raked a hand through his graying hair. We need more evidence before approaching anyone with this theory. Then help me get it, Harry urged. Examine Scabbers. If he's just a rat, no harm done. But if he's Pettigrew? Let me think, Lupin insisted. This has significant implications. For now, focus on your studies. Our Patronus lessons will begin after the holidays, as agreed. Harry nodded, recognizing the dismissal. As he left the defense classroom, he felt the spirit's satisfaction mingling with his own growing certainty. We're close to the truth, it whispered. The rat has much to answer for. If we're right. Harry replied silently. Then an innocent man has spent 12 years in Azkaban. Justice delayed is still justice, little vessel. When the time comes, Pettigrew will face the penance stare, and Black will be free. The promise hung between them as Harry made his way to his next class, a new determination settling into his young bones. The weeks that followed were a delicate dance of secrets and surveillance. Harry, Ron, and Hermione kept close watch on Scabbers, who seemed increasingly nervous and unwell, losing fur, refusing food, jumping at shadows. Ron attributed it to Hermione's new cat, Crookshanks, who displayed an unusual fixation on the rat. That beast is trying to kill Scabbers, Ron complained regularly. Look at him, he's terrified. With good reason, the spirit commented dryly. If our suspicions are correct, he fears more than just the cat. Harry had shared their theory with Ron and Hermione after extracting promises of absolute secrecy. Ron had initially been horrified at the suggestion his pet might be a wizard in disguise, then insulted on Scabbers' behalf, and finally reluctantly willing to consider the possibility. How do we prove it, though? He'd asked. We can't just accuse my rat of being a mass murderer without evidence. There's a spell Hermione had supplied after extensive research. The Animagus Revelio. It forces an Animagus back into human form. But it's complex, beyond our current abilities. Professor Lupin could cast it, Harry had suggested. But Lupin remained cautious, unwilling to act without more concrete evidence. The approaching full moon further delayed any potential confrontation with Scabbers, as the professor was increasingly unwell. Meanwhile, Harry's schedule filled with Quidditch practice, coursework, and his own private investigation into Sirius Black. The spirit guided his research toward old trial records, or rather, the lack thereof. He never received a trial. Harry reported to his friends in the library one evening, voice barely above a whisper. Just sent straight to Azkaban on Crouch's orders. That's illegal, Hermione whispered back, shocked. Even with the chaos after you-know-who's fall, basic legal procedures should have been followed. Makes you wonder what they were afraid would come out in a trial. Ron muttered, eyeing Scabbers' cage with newfound suspicion. The rat had grown so nervous that Ron had taken to keeping him confined, ostensibly for protection from Crookshanks. October slipped into November, bringing increasingly bitter weather and the first Quidditch match of the season, Gryffindor versus Hufflepuff in a howling gale. The game quickly devolved into a battle against the elements as much as against the opposing team, with players barely visible through sheets of rain and mist. Harry, searching desperately for the snitch high above the pitch, felt at first that unnatural cold cutting through the already frigid rain. His breath fogged before him as dozens of Dementors glided onto the field below, hooded faces turned upward. They hunger for you, the spirit warned. Your soul burns brighter than the others. The screaming started in his head again, his mother's voice, pleading for his life. Harry fought to stay conscious, to maintain his grip on his broom, but the combined assault of the storm and the Dementors was too much. As darkness crept in from the edges of his vision, he felt himself slip sideways, falling through empty space. The spirit surged forward, not to take control but to preserve consciousness. Transform, it urged. Partial transformation, enough to survive the fall. With his remaining strength, Harry surrendered to the spirit's guidance. His eyes blazed golden through the rain, his skin beginning to glow with inner fire that turned raindrops to steam on contact. It wasn't a full transformation, they were too exposed, too visible, but enough to slow his descent through sheer supernatural resistance. Even so, he hit the ground hard, the impact driving the breath from his lungs. Through blurred vision, he saw dark shapes approaching, Dementors, drawn by the unusual energy emanating from him. The cold intensified, the screaming in his head reaching unbearable levels. Expecto Patronum! Multiple voices shouted the spell from different directions. Silver light erupted around Harry, driving the Dementors back. Through the haze of pain and cold, he recognized Dumbledore's tall figure, wand extended, face terrifying in its anger. Then darkness claimed him completely. He awakened in the hospital wing, surrounded by the mud-splattered Gryffindor team and his worried friends. "You fell nearly 50 feet," Hermione told him, her face pale. "If you hadn't slowed yourself somehow. We thought you were dead," Ron added hoarsely. "My broom?" Harry asked, already suspecting the answer. "It blew into the Whomping Willow," Fred Weasley reported grimly. "Not even splinters left." After the team departed, Hermione leaned closer. "Harry, what happened up there? You started to change. The spirit tried to save us," Harry explained quietly. "Partial transformation, just enough to slow the fall. Did anyone notice? In that storm?" "Unlikely," Hermione assured him. "But Dumbledore might have." He was furious about the Dementors entering the grounds. "We lost the match, I suppose?" Harry asked. Ron nodded. Diggory caught the snitch before he realized you'd fallen. Tried to call for a rematch when he found out what happened, but they won fair and square. The conversation was interrupted by Madame Pomfrey shooing his friends away, insisting Harry needed rest. Left alone, he communed with the spirit. "That was too close," he observed. "We need better defenses against the Dementors." "Yes," the spirit agreed. "The Patronus charm becomes essential now. And we must accelerate our investigation of Pettigrew. The sooner Black is exonerated, the sooner the Dementors leave." Harry nodded slightly, staring up at the hospital wing ceiling. The pieces were aligning: Scabrous' unusual lifespan and missing digit, Sirius Black's lack of trial, Pettigrew's convenient death, leaving only a finger behind. All they needed now was proof. And with the Dementors proving more dangerous than Black himself, that proof couldn't come soon enough. December arrived with a blanket of snow and news of another Hogsmeade weekend, the second Harry would miss due to his unsigned permission form. As his friends prepared to visit the Wizarding Village, the Weasley twins pulled Harry aside, presenting him with a remarkable gift, the Marauder's Map, a magical document showing every person's location within Hogwarts. "This old beauty's taught us more than all the teachers combined," Fred explained as they demonstrated its functionality. "And look here," George added, pointing to the map's introduction. "Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs are heroes. The greatest troublemakers Hogwarts ever saw." Harry stared at the names, recognition flashing through his mind as the spirit stirred with interest. Nicknames. His father and his friends had nicknames based on their animagus forms. Which meant, "Thank you," he said sincerely, pocketing the map. "This is brilliant." Once alone, Harry activated the map, scanning it with growing excitement. "I solemnly swear that I am up to no good," he whispered, watching ink spread across the parchment. "Look for Pettigrew," the spirit urged. "If our theory is correct, he will appear under his true name, not as Scabbers." Harry searched the Gryffindor Tower first, where Ron had left the caged rat before departing for Hogsmeade. There, in their dormitory, was a dot labeled Peter Pettigrew. "Got you," Harry whispered, triumph flooding through him. Proof at last. He hesitated only briefly before making his decision. Rather than following the twins' suggestion to use the secret passage to Hogsmeade, he folded the map and headed straight for Professor Lupin's office. The defense professor looked up in surprise when Harry burst in without knocking. "Harry? What's wrong?" "Evidence," Harry said simply, spreading the map across Lupin's desk. "Look." In Gryffindor Tower. Lupin's eyes widened as he took in the familiar parchment. The Marauder's Map. "Where did you get this?" "Fred and George Weasley," Harry explained impatiently. "But that's not important. Look at who's in my dormitory." Lupin's face strained of color as he spotted the name. "Peter Pettigrew," he whispered. "But that's impossible. He's dead." No, Harry insisted. He's been hiding as Ron's rat. Scabbers. For 12 years. He tapped the map emphatically. The map doesn't lie, does it? No, Lupin admitted, still staring at Pettigrew's name. It identifies people by their true magical signature, regardless of disguise or transformation. He looked up at Harry, conflict written across his features. If Peter is alive, then Sirius is innocent, Harry finished. Framed for betraying my parents and killing those muggles. Lupin stood abruptly. We need to secure Pettigrew immediately. Before he realizes we know. He hesitated. And we need to inform Dumbledore. Agreed, Harry said. But we capture Pettigrew first. Proof in hand is better than theories. They moved quickly to Gryffindor Tower, Lupin using his professor's authority to access the boys' dormitory. Scabbers' cage sat on Ron's bed, the rat inside looking more ragged and nervous than ever. Is that him? Lupin asked quietly, wand already drawn. Harry nodded, feeling the spirit surge forward with cold purpose. That's Pettigrew. Lupin approached the cage carefully, pointing his wand directly at the cowering rat. The revealing spell will force him back to human form. He explained. Stand back, Harry. The rat seemed to sense their intentions. It began squeaking frantically, throwing itself against the cage bars in desperate panic. Animagus Revelio. Lupin cast with perfect precision. A flash of blue-white light erupted from his wand, striking Scabbers squarely. The cage shattered as the rat contorted, growing rapidly. Limbs lengthened, fur receded, and within seconds, a small, balding man with grubby skin crouched on the dormitory floor, looking utterly terrified. Hello, Peter, Lupin said coldly. Surprised to see me? Aramis! Pettigrew squeaked, his voice high and panicky. My old friend! Thank goodness, you've saved me from Sirius! He's trying to kill me! Is he? Lupin asked conversationally, though his wand remained steadily pointed at Pettigrew's heart. And why would Sirius want to kill you, Peter? Unless he was always jealous, Pettigrew babbled, eyes darting frantically between Lupin and Harry. Of my friendship with James. And then he betrayed them to you-know-who and stopped lying. Harry stepped forward, eyes beginning to glow with golden fire as the spirit's rage burned through him. You were the secret keeper. You betrayed my parents to Voldemort. You framed Sirius Black. Pettigrew cowered as the temperature in the room plummeted, frost forming on the windows despite the roaring fire in the grate. Harry! Sweet boy! Your father wouldn't have wanted me killed. James would have shown mercy. I'm not going to kill you, Harry said quietly, the otherworldly resonance creeping into his voice. But you will face justice for what you've done. We're taking you to Dumbledore. Lupin added firmly. In Carceris. Ropes shot from his wand, binding Pettigrew tightly. The man collapsed to the floor, whimpering. Please! He'll kill me! Sirius will kill me! He'll have to get in line, Harry said coldly. Then, to Lupin, we should move quickly. Before anyone returns from Hogsmeade. Lupin nodded, levitating the bound Pettigrew. I've sent my Patronus to Dumbledore. He'll meet us in his office. They made their way through the castle, Harry consulting the Marauder's map to avoid other students. Pettigrew continued his desperate pleas and denials until Lupin silenced him with another spell. Dumbledore was waiting in his office, his normally twinkling eyes serious as they entered with their prisoner. Professor McGonagall stood beside him, her face pale with shock as she recognized the man she'd believed dead for 12 years. I see you've made a rather significant discovery, Dumbledore said mildly, though his gaze was sharp. Perhaps you'd care to explain? Harry let Lupin handle the initial explanation, the map revealing Pettigrew's identity, the Animagus revelation, and the implications for Sirius Black's supposed crimes. Throughout the recounting, Dumbledore's expression grew increasingly grave. This is most disturbing, he said when Lupin finished. If true, it represents a miscarriage of justice of the highest order. He turned to Pettigrew, removing the silencing charm. Mr. Pettigrew, what have you to say for yourself? Given the opportunity to speak, Pettigrew launched into frantic denials and accusations against Sirius Black. But as the questioning continued, his story began to unravel, contradictions emerging under Dumbledore's calm but relentless interrogation. Finally, as if sensing the futility of further lies, Pettigrew changed tactics. "I was scared," he wailed. "The Dark Lord, you have no idea of his powers. What would you have done?" "I would have died," Harry said quietly. "Died rather than betray my friends." The silence that followed was absolute. Even Pettigrew seemed to recognize he had inadvertently confessed. "Minerva," Dumbledore said finally, "please contact Amelia Bones immediately. We need ministry officials here to take Mr. Pettigrew into custody, under the strictest security. And arrange for Veritaserum." "What about Sirius Black?" Harry asked as McGonagall departed on her mission. "How do we clear his name? Once Mr. Pettigrew's testimony is officially recorded, the process of exonerating Mr. Black can begin," Dumbledore assured him, "though convincing him to surrender himself for that process may prove challenging." "I think I can help with that," Lupin said. "If Harry is willing." Harry nodded immediately, understanding the implication. "I'll meet with him. Convince him it's safe to come in." Dumbledore looked troubled. "That would be extremely dangerous, Harry. Whatever our suspicions about Mr. Pettigrew's guilt, Sirius Black has spent 12 years in Azkaban. The psychological effects, I can protect myself," Harry said with quiet confidence. "And the spirit can sense true intentions. If Black means me harm, we'll know immediately." "Ah, yes, the spirit." Dumbledore's gaze sharpened. "I noticed its influence during the Quidditch match. Your control is improving, but such manifestations remain dangerous, Harry. Less dangerous than leaving an innocent man hunted by Dementors," Harry countered. The headmaster studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "Very well. Once we have Pettigrew secured and his testimony recorded, we will arrange a controlled meeting with Sirius Black. But," he added firmly, "only under my direct supervision." Harry agreed, though he felt the spirit's mild amusement at the notion that Dumbledore could supervise if things went wrong. Their power had grown significantly in the past year. The full transformation was now smoother, more controlled, and the penance stare more precise in its judgment. "Pettigrew deserves the stare," the spirit observed as they watched Aurus arrive to take the whimpering man into custody. "His soul is stained with your parents' blood, with 12 Muggles' deaths, with Black's wrongful imprisonment. He'll get justice through the system," Harry replied silently. "The Wizengamot will send him to Azkaban, or worse." "Justice, perhaps, but not understanding," the spirit noted. "He does not truly comprehend the suffering he has caused. The stare would give him that knowledge." Harry didn't disagree, but restrained the impulse. Using the penance stare on Pettigrew now would complicate an already volatile situation. Better to let the legal process unfold, at least for now. As Pettigrew was led away, still protesting his innocence despite his earlier confession, Dumbledore turned to Harry. "Your instincts were correct, it seems," the headmaster acknowledged. "The spirit's insights led you to the truth when the rest of us remained blind to it. The spirit sensed the stain on Pettigrew's soul," Harry explained. "It knows when someone is guilty of the crimes they're accused of, and when they're not. A useful ability," Dumbledore mused. "Though I continue to worry about its influence on you, Harry. Vengeance is a consuming path." "It's justice we seek," Harry corrected. "Not mere revenge." Dumbledore smiled sadly. "The line between them is often thinner than we wish to admit." He gestured toward the door. "Return to your dormitory for now. Your friends will be back from Hogsmeade, and I'm sure they'll have questions about Mr. Weasley's missing pet." Harry nodded, recognizing the dismissal. As he left the headmaster's office, he felt a complex mixture of emotions: satisfaction at Pettigrew's capture, hope for Black's exoneration, and a lingering desire for something more definitive than mere imprisonment for his parents' betrayer. "Patience, little vessel," the spirit counseled. "Justice comes in many forms. Pettigrew will face his reckoning, one way or another. The news of Peter Pettigrew's capture and Sirius Black's potential innocence exploded through the wizarding world like a bombshell. The Daily Prophet ran special editions detailing the developing story, from Pettigrew's Veritaserum testimony confirming his betrayal of the Potters to the Ministry's formal rescinding of the order for Black's arrest. Ron oscillated between horror at having slept in the same room as his parents' betrayer for years and pride at being tangentially involved in uncovering the truth. Hermione, meanwhile, threw herself into researching wrongful convictions and compensation precedents in wizarding law. Sirius should receive significant reparations, she informed Harry over breakfast about a week after Pettigrew's capture. 12 years of wrongful imprisonment. There are cases with much shorter periods that resulted in substantial settlements. I don't think he's concerned about money, Harry replied, scanning the latest Prophet headline, Black Innocent, Ministry Embarrassed, Fudge Faces Calls for Inquiry. It's not just about money, Hermione insisted. It's about formal acknowledgement of the injustice. Harry nodded absently, his mind on the coming meeting with his godfather. Dumbledore had arranged it for that very evening, in his office, a controlled environment where Black could surrender himself officially to receive his formal exoneration. Are you nervous? Ron asked, noticing Harry's distraction. About meeting him? A bit, Harry admitted. He was my father's best friend. My godfather. And he spent 12 years in Azkaban for something he didn't do. While the real traitor lived as my pet, Ron added grimly. Still can't believe it. The meeting was set for 8 o'clock. As the appointed hour approached, Harry found himself pacing the common room, unable to focus on homework or conversation. It'll be fine, Hermione assured him. Professor Lupin says Sirius was devoted to your parents. To you. I know, Harry said. The spirit senses no danger from him. It's just a lot to process, Ron supplied. Anyone would be nervous. At 7:45, Harry left Gryffindor Tower, making his way through the quiet corridors to Dumbledore's office. The gargoyle guarding the entrance leapt aside as he approached, clearly instructed to expect him. At the top of the spiral staircase, he paused, hearing voices from within. Still think this is premature, Albus, came Professor McGonagall's concerned tone. He's been in Azkaban for 12 years. The psychological effects are substantial, Dumbledore acknowledged. But Sirius has requested this meeting most urgently. He has rights as Harry's godfather, and Harry himself wishes it. I'm simply concerned about Mr. Potter's safety, McGonagall persisted. Even innocent Black is unstable. Harry has protections we don't fully understand, came Lupin's voice. And we'll all be present. Taking a deep breath, Harry knocked on the door. Enter, called Dumbledore. The office was arranged differently than usual, with a circle of comfortable chairs replacing Dumbledore's usual desk setup. The headmaster himself stood by the fireplace, with Professors McGonagall and Lupin nearby. All three looked up as Harry entered. Ah, Harry, Dumbledore greeted him. Right on time. We were just discussing the arrangements. Is he here yet? Harry asked, scanning the room. Not yet, Lupin replied. But soon. He'll be coming through the Flynn network, a secure connection I arranged. Harry nodded, taking the chair Dumbledore indicated. Inside him, the spirit remained calm but alert, ready to protect him if necessary, though both of them doubted it would be. At precisely 8 o'clock, the fireplace flared green. A tall, gaunt figure stepped through, brushing ash from ragged robes. Sirius Black looked nothing like his wanted posters. Though still thin to the point of emaciation, he had clearly made efforts to improve his appearance. His long hair was clean and tied back, his face recently shaved, his eyes bright with nervous anticipation rather than the madness depicted in the photographs. His gaze found Harry immediately, and he froze, drinking in the sight of his godson. Harry, he said, his voice hoarse from disuse. You look so like James. Except my eyes, Harry finished, rising slowly. I have my mother's eyes. Black nodded, seemingly unable to speak further. After a moment of hesitation, he stepped forward, stopping a respectful distance away. "I don't know what to say," he admitted finally. "Except that I'm sorry. So desperately sorry. I suggested the switch to Pettigrew. I as good as killed them." "No," Harry said firmly. "Voldemort killed my parents. Pettigrew betrayed them. You were a victim too." Black's haunted eyes filled with tears. "You're generous. More than I deserve." "The spirit disagrees," Harry said quietly. "It senses no guilt in you for their deaths, only grief and regret for the switch." "The spirit?" Black repeated, confusion momentarily replacing his emotional turmoil. "Perhaps we should all sit," Dumbledore suggested smoothly. "There is much to discuss, and the night is young." They settled into the arranged chairs. Lupin briefly explained the events leading to Pettigrew's capture, how Harry's unique abilities had helped identify the rat as an animagus. "These abilities," Black said, studying Harry with newfound curiosity. "What exactly?" Harry hesitated, looking to Dumbledore, who nodded slightly, permission to share at least some of the truth. "When I was 6," Harry began, "something happened. The Dursleys' treatment triggered a bond with an ancient entity. The spirit of vengeance. It protects me, guides me, helps me identify truth from lies and innocence from guilt." Black's eyebrows rose dramatically. "Spirit of vengeance?" "I've heard legends, stories from the oldest pure-blood families. A fiery rider who hunts the guilty." "Yes," Harry confirmed simply. "It's bonded with me. Permanently." "That's how you knew I was innocent," Black realized. "Even when everyone else believed me guilty." Harry nodded. "The spirit sensed you didn't have my parents' blood on your soul. It took us time to piece together what really happened, but once we found Pettigrew on the Marauder's map." "The map!" Black exclaimed, a ghost of his former self shining through. "You found it! James would be so proud." The conversation flowed more naturally after that. Black, who insisted Harry call him Sirius, explained his escape from Azkaban, triggered by seeing Pettigrew's photo in the Daily Prophet with the Weasley family in Egypt. His determination to protect Harry had given him the strength to slip through the bars in his emaciated dog form. "The Dementors affect me less as Padfoot," he explained. "Animal emotions are simpler, less appetizing to them." "Speaking of Dementors," McGonagall interjected, "now that your innocence is established, they should be removed from the school grounds immediately. Minister Fudge has agreed to withdraw them once Sirius has formally surrendered and received his pardon," Dumbledore assured her. "Which brings us to the next steps. The legal process," Dumbledore explained, "would be expedited given Pettigrew's confession under Veritaserum. Sirius would need to surrender himself to the Ministry tomorrow, undergo a formal hearing, little more than a ceremony at this point, and receive his official exoneration." "And then?" Harry asked. Sirius looked at him hopefully. "And then, if you're willing, I'd like to fulfill my role as your godfather. James and Lily named me your guardian if anything happened to them." "You mean, live with you?" Harry couldn't keep the hope from his voice. "If you want to," Sirius said quickly. "I understand if you'd rather stay with your aunt and uncle." "No," Harry interrupted firmly. "I want to live with you. As soon as possible." The smile that transformed Sirius's gaunt face made him look years younger. "Then that's what we'll do. I have a family home, needs work, but it's secure. We can make it ours." As the adults discussed practicalities, Harry felt the spirit's quiet approval. "He has suffered much," it observed. "His soul bears scars from the Dementor's torment. But his core remains strong, his love for you genuine." "What about his reaction to you?" Harry asked silently. "To our bond?" "He accepts what he does not fully understand, a good quality in a guardian. In time, we will reveal more, if it seems wise." The meeting concluded with arrangements for Harry to visit Sirius during the Christmas holidays, once the legalities were settled. As they prepared to depart, Sirius pulled Harry aside for a moment of privacy. "Your parents would be so proud of you, Harry," he said quietly. Not just for finding Pettigrew, but for who you're becoming. This spirit. I don't pretend to understand it fully, but if it's helped you survive and thrive, I'm grateful to it. Harry smiled slightly. We're a package deal. The spirit and I. Then I welcome you both to my home, Sirius said simply. Whatever you are, whoever you're becoming, you're James and Lily's son. My godson. That's what matters. The sincerity in his voice touched something deep in Harry, a longing for family he'd carried his entire life. For all the power the spirit granted him, for all the justice they dispensed together, this simple human connection felt like a different kind of strength. As they rejoined the others, Sirius transformed into his animagus form for the journey to the Ministry holding cells, a large black dog that nudged Harry's hand affectionately before departing with Lupin through the Fleur. A remarkable evening, Dumbledore commented as Harry prepared to leave. The wheels of justice turn slowly, but they do turn. Sometimes they need a push, Harry replied. Dumbledore smiled slightly. Indeed. Though I wonder if you recognize how much you've changed those wheels' direction, Harry. Not just for Sirius, but potentially for yourself. What do you mean? The path of vengeance is solitary by nature, the headmaster said carefully. But you've chosen connections, with friends, with Sirius, with the community of Hogwarts. That choice may well determine whether the spirit's influence leads you toward justice or mere retribution. Harry considered this as he made his way back to Gryffindor Tower. The spirit had been silent during Dumbledore's observation, either agreeing nor disagreeing. What do you think? He asked it finally. About what Dumbledore said. He speaks partial truth, the spirit acknowledged. Vengeance alone is consuming, isolating. But justice tempered with compassion, with human connection, creates balance. Your humanity anchors my fire, prevents it from burning indiscriminately. And Sirius? Living with him instead of the Dursleys? A positive development, the spirit judged. The dogman's soul is wounded but healing. His presence will strengthen your human connections, not weaken them. Harry smiled slightly, relief washing through him. For the first time since the spirit had bonded with him 7 years ago, his future looked truly bright, not just powerful, but happy. Justice had been served for his parents' betrayal. His godfather was free and eager to provide the family he'd always wanted. The Dementors would soon leave Hogwarts. And through it all, the spirit remained his constant companion, guiding him along the knife's edge between vengeance and justice, between power and humanity. This chapter closes, the spirit observed as Harry reached Gryffindor Tower. But our journey continues. Pettigrew's capture has changed your path, but Voldemort still lurks in the shadows. Other enemies will emerge. Other innocents will need protection. We'll be ready, Harry promised silently as he gave the password to the fat lady. Together, the boy who lived and the spirit of vengeance would face whatever came next, stronger for the trials they'd overcome, balanced by the human connections they'd forged, and united in their singular purpose: justice for the innocent, judgment for the guilty. A flaming sword in a darkening world. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.